The guy thought that he was unlucky because it was raining hard outside. I wish he hadn't lost at rock, paper, scissors. This way, he wouldn't have to go out to buy something for the entire dorm. As he was running towards the store, he suddenly heard a shout from somewhere above. Looking up, Hao Ren noticed a silhouette in the sky, and he was surprised. When the stranger flew straight at him, he stretched out his arms to catch her, but the girl fell right on top of him and their lips touched. Hao Ren pulled away from her and asked for forgiveness, as it seemed that he had swallowed something. Then he asked the girl if she was okay, and when he looked at her more closely, he realized that she was quite a beauty. The stranger immediately got up, went to the guy, and took him by the collar, asking him to give something back. The same man claimed that he saved her and did not take anything from her. She let him go and said that she would never want him to save her or kiss her, so she asked him to give her something back. Hao Ren replied that the kiss was completely random, and as he had told her earlier, he didn't take anything. How could she falsely accuse him of this? The girl said that she would find out if the guy was telling the truth after an investigation. People gathered around the two and started whispering. They didn't understand what was going on. Did he forcibly kiss this girl? What did he take from her? Is this an excuse to flirt with a pretty girl? The stranger touched Hao Ren's stomach and said that it was here, so we need to return it. Suddenly, passers-by noticed that the stranger herself was touching him, so they thought that they were just a couple having fun. The guy viciously told her to stop. The girl kept asking him to give her back what he had taken. Hao Ren suddenly felt unwell, but he asked her again what she had lost since he hadn't taken anything. The girl said that he would not understand, so it is better to return him now or he will die. The guy pushed the stranger away from him and told her to leave him alone, then noticed how his fingers turned green. He didn't understand what had happened. He didn't use that much power. And green. Does his skin change color? A crowd of people gathered around him. Hao Ren thought that he was becoming famous. Then he told the girl that she should stop making a scene out of it. He has a very bad stomachache, and he probably earned it by saving her. She called him names and said she wouldn't let him go. Suddenly, a car pulled up and the bodyguards got out. People who saw this car were impressed. One of the passers-by said that his life would be worth it if he could touch it. Soon, a man got out of the car and walked towards Miss Dai, accompanied by his men. After bowing to her, he informed her that the master had sent them to take her home. He also turned to the guy, telling him to follow them. Miss Zui said they were just in time. We need to teach this guy a lesson because he stole her thing. Hao Ren thought that she was rich and spoiled. However, master, that doesn't sound normal. Where would they take him? They want to bury him in the village. After a while, when they arrived at the right place, all the guards greeted Miss Zui with bows. The girl told them to drop the formalities. Hao Ren was surprised and asked her if her father was Zhao Guang, the CEO of Manga Group. A person who can make East Ocean City tremble at any time. The girl chuckled and said it was true. She is his daughter, Zhao Yanzi. Is he afraid now? He had heard that Manga Group was on good terms with both the criminal underworld and the government. And Zhao Guang is respected even in the highest circles. He contacted his daughter. He's finished. The man called out the guy's name, who excitedly said that it was him. Zhao Guang asked, did he eat his daughter's inner core? Hao Ren trembled and asked again, is this really called the inner core? He didn't know it was anything important. The man smiled and said that then he should take her as his wife. Zhao Guang said that in this case, he should take her as his wife. Miss Z got an electric shock after saying that and got angry and shouted out, asking if he was bullying her. Her father told her to calm down because it's not necessary to get excited. Turning to the boy, he asked him if his whole body was white and the skin around his wrists was green, right? Hao Ren was surprised and asked how the man knew about this. Zhao Guang claimed that it was all because he had eaten Dragon Z's core. The Dragon Core is the source of the Dragon Tribe's power. It helps them fly and control the world. The guy thought he was asleep. No, that can't be true. It must be the newest type of hologram. The man continued, saying that if the person gets the Dragon Core in time, Hao Ren thought he was going to die. Suddenly, Zhao Guang asked him what he would think of Zai. He said he thought she was spoiled, rough, childish and smug. Miss Z viciously asked what he was mumbling about. Her father had told her to watch her manners. As a dragon, she can't cultivate or return to her true form after losing the dragon core. Or worse, she can die within 5 years. The guy was shocked by these words. She might not be in a good mood, but if he caused the death of such a cute girl. Then he asked Zhao Guang about whether he could take out the dragon core from it and return it to her. He replied that his human aura had already affected him. If they move it back to his daughter, things could get even worse. Hao Ren asked him, can she only wait for her death? Miss Z was surprised and thought, why would he bother with a person that he had only recently met? His name correctly speaks of him. He's a good man. Zhao Guan patted the boy's hair and said that his daughter would be saved if he married her. Hao Ren was surprised and replied that she was only a middle school student and he was only 19. The men said they weren't in a hurry. They can be engaged first. Besides, getting the dragon core back isn't as easy as he thinks. He must constantly cultivate their art to strengthen it, until he can give half of it to Zai during sexual intercourse. Miss Z and Hao Ren both asked about what he had just said, sexual intercourse. Zhao Guang asked the guy what he thought of what he said earlier. Hao Ren replied sheepishly that he never wanted to. Miss Z viciously stated that she would have said the same thing, so he just got lucky. The woman told the guy that she had kept him here long enough, so that he would ask someone to take him back. The assistant asked Mr. Hao to follow him, and Mr. Hao thanked him. A guy was standing near one of the pillars and overheard their conversation. Looking at Hao Ren, he thought that this was Miss Z's future husband. Who was he to be her husband? He stretched out his leg and tried to kick him, but the girl pushed him away and told him to get out of her way. The deputy director said that Lei Ruyu shouldn't be so rude. Hao Ren saw the old man and asked, is he the deputy director, Mr. Lu King? The answer was yes. He replied that the guy would return to the university with him a little later. When they arrived at the right place, Lu King said that it was their spirit concentration art. If he followed the instructions, he would soon achieve something. Lei Ru complained that a human wouldn't be able to understand their art. The old man yanked the book out of his hands and said that it was unacceptable to talk to Mr. Hao like that. Hao Ren thought about what he had just said. Isn't that the deputy director? Why does he seem so respectful? Gu King told him to cultivate diligently. He would check it regularly. Hao Ren took a look at what he was given and realized that it was a spirit concentration scroll, the art of the dragon tribe. Then someone clapped him on the shoulder and called him by name. The guy said they hadn't seen him in a day, and he'd already hit on a nice girl and become the deputy director's son-in-law. Hao Ren stated that this was not the case. His friend said that the news had already spread all over the university. A girl passed them, and they watched her go. The guy thought she was beautiful, but what university is she from? If only he had such a hot girlfriend. Hao Ren's second friend, after seeing the girl, said that he had always been a good guy, but how could he deceive Shani Yujia behind her back? The guy covered his mouth with his hand and asked him to be quiet. What if someone heard him? He asked why he was so nervous. He's already expressed his love. The guy told him to shut up again. Thanks to them, his friends, things had become too awkward between him and Kaksuri Yujia. The girl passed by them, then heard something, blushed and ran away. Hao Ren's friend stated that as a single guy of 19 years, he was sure that Sky Yujia liked him. Then the guy got a message on his phone. Shi Yujia asked what had happened. She heard that some people had taken him away. Hao Ren replied that it was just a misunderstanding. The girl wrote that recently he was not in a good mood and she was worried about him. How about a walk after the lectures? The guy thought it was a great idea. Now he could explain to her what had happened that day. When the bell rang, all the students were already in the lecture hall. Suddenly, someone shouted that Miss Su was here. Goddess Suhan. This is the goddess Suhan. A girl came into the classroom with a bag full of something, dragging it viciously and then throwing it on the table. Ms. Su stated that she recorded the people who sent her these love letters. Anyone who does it again will get an F on their final exam. So now it's time to start their lesson. The guy next to Hao Ren said that F was nothing. This is much better than getting rejected. Another said, adjusting his glasses, that the bastards deserved it. How dare they break into Goddess Su's office? Miss Su called out, telling everyone to be quiet. Hao Ren whispered to a friend that Miss Su was too cold, so it wasn't surprising that she still didn't have a boyfriend. Teacher Su told him to focus, because his lack of concentration is the reason why he made mistakes in the last homework assignment. The guy let out a frustrated sigh and took out his phone, asking Shi Yujia about how about we have lunch together after class. The girl looked at the phone screen in surprise. After a while, Hao Ren happily announced that the class ended so quickly. Together with Shi Yujia, they wanted to go out for lunch, but Miss Su told him to come to her office. His friends were not happy about this and asked when he had picked up Goddess Su. In the study, Teacher Su asked Hao Ren about which side he was on. The guy didn't understand her words. Which side? Miss Su took his hand and asked him to answer the question. He asked her what she was doing. After twisting his arm behind his back and laying him down on the table, Miss Su said that she should stop pretending. How did a person like him have the aura of the Eastern Ocean Dragon Tribe? Hao Ren replied that he didn't do anything, he just accidentally swallowed the dragon core. The girl asked again, accidentally swallowed a dragon core. After letting him go, Miss Su said that she would check with the Eastern Ocean Dragon Tribe, and now he is free. Surprised, Hao Ren wondered how Miss Su knew all this. Using the neck-grabbing technique, Miss Su told him to remember not to tell anyone about the Dragon Tribe, otherwise she would have to eliminate him. Hao Ren asked who she was and why she could eliminate people. Miss Su replied that he really didn't know anything. She introduced herself as the inspector. Inspector. Hao Ren let out a frustrated sigh and said that he had been cultivating the art for days, but nothing had worked out. Then a text message from Dragon King Zhao came to his phone. He told him to come over for dinner this weekend. Dinner at the Dragon King's house? He wasn't happy about it, especially when he remembered all those faces. But still, he attended this dinner. Sitting at the table, the girl offered Hao Ren more food and handed him the food in chopsticks. He scratched his head in embarrassment and thanked Mrs. Hongyu. Miss Zi took the food he offered, saying it was her favorite. When Zhao Guan wanted to get some ham, Mrs. Hongyu stuck her fork into it with a smile and said that he shouldn't eat fatty dishes. You need to protect yourself from hypertension, heart disease, and diabetes. Suddenly, Hao Ren asked Mrs. Hongyu if she had heard anything about the inspector. Zhao Guan viciously asked him, has he already met the inspector? Hao Ren replied that she was a teacher from their school. Her name was Su Han. Mrs. Hongyu understood. Inspectors have the authority to monitor various dragon-related issues. The guy better stay away from them. He asked if they were that powerful. Zhao Guan replied that there were 8 cultivation realms for the dragon tribe. Most of the inspectors have reached the upper 8th realm or even higher. Su Han is so strong that she can defeat 2 Liu King combined. Hao Ren thought that the vice principal looked very strong, but he didn't expect Miss Su to be stronger. She's still so young and beautiful. Zhao Guang said that Su Han and the Eastern Ocean Dragon Tribe might have long-standing ties, but one should not let one's guard down. Inspectors have the right to execute anyone they deem guilty. But the guy shouldn't be afraid. They won't let them hurt him. Hao Ren thought that Mr. Zhao was treating him like his family. The man told him he was special. It is worth cultivating diligently. When he became the legal representative of the Dragon Tribe, the inspectors wouldn't bother him. Mrs. Hongyu asked Hao Ren about his cultivation situation. He still can't hide his aura. He thought that every time he cultivated, he felt like something was getting stuck. Because of this, he does not succeed. Every time Hao Ren cultivates, he feels like something is getting stuck. Because of this, he does not succeed. Seeing his expression, Mrs. Hongyu said that she shouldn't be too hard on herself. It was better to leave things as they were. Then she suddenly remembered and asked the guy to help Zi with his lessons when he was free. She's good at everything except English. Miss Zi got angry and asked what would an idiot like him know about her lessons. Hao Ren crossed his arms and called her little brat in displeasure. The girl got angry and got up from her seat, saying that she didn't need his help. Shouting, the guy asked her if she really thought he wanted to do this. Mr. Zhao and Mrs. Hongyu shyly asked the guy to forgive them for this. Zai is a bit short-tempered, but she has good intentions. Hao Ren replied that he knew this and then said that it was time for him to go. After thanking Mr. and Mrs. Zhao for dinner, he said goodbye to them. As he walked down the street, he thought about the words he heard. She has good intentions. Then what the hell is she doing? She's a little devil. Putting his hands in his pocket, he suddenly found that there was nothing there, but Hao Ren remembered that his cards and wallet were in the right pocket. Hell, he must have left them with Dragon King Zhao. Turning around, he immediately ran back, but accidentally overheard the conversation. Mrs. Zhao asked her husband if he was sure he hadn't told Hao Ren about this. He replied that it was better to listen to Tsuzu. The woman asked how could they hide it from Hao Ren? If he couldn't open all the Dragon Core openings and transfer half of Dragon Z's essence within 3 years, then she wouldn't even live for 2 years. He thought to himself, is there really a time limit on his cultivation? Zhao Guang said that Hao Ren was a kind person. He would feel guilty if he knew that Z was willing to risk her life to protect him. His wife said that they could save Z's life by taking the Dragon Core by force, but in this case, Hao Ren, he realized that Zhao Yanzi had taken such risks. He should definitely help her with her classes tomorrow. Miss Z was thinking about what happened earlier. Zhao Guang stated that without the Dragon Core, Z would die before the age of 20. Lei Ru told them to cut this person apart to extract the core. The old man said that he agreed with his words. Compared to Miss Z's life, a human is nothing. Lei Rui said that he would kill him and throw his body into the ocean. No one will find it. Miss Z suddenly threw open the door and shouted that she wouldn't let that happen. The guy said that other than killing him, there was no way to guarantee her survival. The girl said that he was not guilty of anything, so she could not take his life to save her own. Zhao Guang laughed and patted his daughter's head, telling her not to worry, he had an idea. Burying her face in the pillow, Miss Zai thought that she didn't want to kill him or marry him. Her dad is just a fool. Hao Ren knocked on the door of Zhao Yanzi's room and said that he was here to help her with her lessons. Opening the door a crack, she asked why he was here again. He replied that he was here to teach her. Then he asked Miss Zidi to open the door or else he would tell Mrs. Hongyu about it. She said she wouldn't open it. Hao Ren turned around and said that he was going to see her mother in that case. Zhao Yanzi told him not to go, so she opened the door, but she tripped on the doorframe and fell into the guy's arms. He asked if he really looked like a snitch. Miss Z shrank away from him and replied that she did. Looking into her room, Hao Ren was surprised by her large size. Sitting him behind her, the girl wanted to close the room and asked that didn't anyone tell him that it was rude to enter a girl's room without permission. Suddenly, she pulled the handle so hard that it broke, and Miss Zai herself fell down. The guy asked her what was wrong with him entering his fancy's room. The girl stood up, rubbing the bruised spot where she'd fallen, then went to the desk and picked up her textbook. Miss Zai angrily threw it in the guy's face and told him to get acquainted with it first. Hao Ren didn't catch it in time, so a small bump formed on his forehead. Zhao Yanzi was surprised and asked why he didn't dodge. Had the blow made him blunt? It wasn't her fault. The guy touched her hair and said he didn't blame her. It was his own fault for not being able to dodge. The girl gave him a confused look, then turned away and told him to take his hand away from her. Hao Ren smiled and listened to her, then suggested that he start learning English. They sat across the table from each other. The guy pointed to the task and stated that she should change the time here, based on time. Things were so difficult for her that Miss Zai held her head after a while and said that she had had enough. As she rested her head wearily on the table, Hao Ren called her a child. He suggested that we take a break and play a little, and then continue a little later. The girl asked him if he was specifically suggesting this so that he could tell her mother about it later. He said that he would play with her, so now they are in league with her. Yanzi was thrilled. It's time to play. She sat down at the computer and started the game with some enthusiasm, but soon lost. Hao Ren called her stupid. Miss Z viciously asked what he said. The guy came up behind her and told her to watch. Hao Ren told her to leave some space in the front and set up a defense at the back. He was so close that it was embarrassing. Miss Z was indignant and said it wouldn't work, but when she took his advice, she won. The guy asked her if she had succeeded, and the girl replied that she had won. It looks like it might be useful from time to time. Suddenly, Mrs. Zhao came into the room and told Z and Hao Ren that they must be tired, so she brought some fruit. When she saw them so close together, she suddenly turned around, telling them to enjoy their time together. The two exchanged a blank look, then immediately pulled away from each other in embarrassment. Zhao Yanzi asked Hao Ren how his training was progressing. Is he working hard on it? The guy replied that he hadn't reached the first level yet because he always felt that something was missing. Gloating, she thought it was her turn to be his teacher. Crossing her arms over her chest, she said she was right and he was a fool. The guy should have come and asked a genius like her. Hao Ren happily asked her if she wanted to teach him. Miss Z got up from her seat and winked at him, extending class as she understood. The Tsudu class, Spirit Concentration List. The girl explained that there are 3 stages of concentration of the spirit. First, interaction with heaven and earth. The first stage is interaction with heaven and earth. You need to feel the energy of nature and purify the body at the same time. The second is to channel energy into the body to strengthen it. The third is the release of energy around the body. Only after reaching this level will he be able to develop more advanced techniques. Hao Ren listened to her carefully and then said that he understood. Yanzi said that these 3 stages are connected, so none of them can be missed. All elements reinforce and constrain each other. Fire strengthens earth, earth strengthens metal, metal strengthens water, water strengthens trees, trees strengthen fire. Water is extreme softness, and spirit concentration is a water cultivation technique, so the key is to balance softness and hardness. You should use softness to restrain hardness. She asked if Hao Ren understood, and then told him to give it a try. The guy agreed and sat down on the floor, folding his legs, and began to cultivate. Strengthen and contain. Balance of softness and firmness. Use your softness to contain your hardness. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he felt a certain energy filling his body. Opening his eyes, he clenched his fist, feeling the power. Miss Z claimed that he had made a breakthrough. That's not bad, but it's all thanks to her excellent teaching. Hao Ren said that was true. She's a princess after all. Yanzi replied that it was true. Lesson is over. He needs to leave. And don't tell him he wants another free dinner at her house. The guy agreed with her and said that he would help her with English another day. He said goodbye to Mr. and Mrs. Zhao and left their house. Zhao Yanzi shouted at him from the balcony, telling him to continue developing in the way she had taught him. With her dragon core, it won't be difficult for a guy to develop spirit concentration. The next day, Hao Ren was sitting in the study reading a book. Not far from him, the boys were whispering. One of them asked if they had heard, "This can't be happening." Hao Ren actually, when the guy turned to them, everyone immediately fell silent. He thought about what he had imagined. But why was everyone looking at him so strangely? Hao Ren thought that he was interrupted last time. This time he would definitely explain everything to Yujia. Just then, Yujia came up to him and told him that he was so popular recently. Miss Su, a nice girl, and Limu. Hao Ren told her that he didn't know that she was interested in gossip. The girl just smiled sweetly. When Yujia asked him about her popularity, Hao Ren said that he didn't know that Yujia was interested in rumors. Blushing, she waved her hands and replied that she wasn't. She just wanted to ask him about the walk she had written to him about earlier. Yujia thought, what is she even talking about? It sounds like she's asking him out. He thought about how Miss Su interrupted his plan last time, so he didn't have time to explain everything to Yujia. It will do it today. Standing up from his chair, Hao Ren asked about how about tonight. They were sitting at a table in a cafe. Yujia said that she saw a limousine coming to pick him up. Something happened? The guy said it wasn't. He just got a part-time job as a tutor, and this limo was his client's. The girl asked him about the cute girl who came to their college to find him. Is this his student? And she's cute. Hao Ren asked her in surprise what she said. Yujia smiled and changed the subject, asking about Miss Su. Why did she call the guy to her office? He replied that Teacher Su had scolded him for being so far away. She shouldn't listen to the chatter of Zhao Jiang and the others. The girl stated that then they said that Hao Ren likes her. Was that a joke too? The guy thought that this is it. It's finally happening. Hao Ren thought back to what had just happened. Zhao Jiang stated that they decided to help him express his love. If she agrees, the entire dorm dinner will be his. You should take it while it's on the table. Does he even know how many people are waiting in line to woo her? Hao Ren viciously told him that he had already talked about it. There's nothing between him and Kexi Yujia. He replied that everything will be fine when their plan is implemented. Another friend of the guys told them to stop arguing because Cai Yujia was already here. He came around the corner to meet her and declared that Hao Ren had liked her for a long time. He wants to be her boyfriend. The guy handed her an envelope with a love letter, and Jiang pushed it out to her. The couple exchanged confused glances. Hao Ren finally told her what about it. Of course they were joking, but I didn't think so myself. The girl said she understood. It's okay, she knows those two people like to make jokes. Shi Yujia then asked if the guy had anything else to say to her. The man asked in surprise what else he had to say. Yujia wrapped a curl around her finger and said that she knew they were joking, but what about him? Hao Ren was about to say something, but the girl suddenly chuckled. She said she was just teasing him. He's so nervous, probably because he's too innocent. That's why these strange people bother him. Hao Ren asked blankly about the strange people. Who's bothering him? Lei Ru was hovering in the sky, watching the guy. How dare this brat see another girl while engaged to Miss D? Hao Ren said that was all for today. The girl should be more careful. He and Xi Yujia said their goodbyes. He thought that Yujia was such a cute girl, not like that little devil. Suddenly, a voice appeared from somewhere that said that he didn't know that the guy knew such a beauty. Hao Ren looked around and asked who was there. Lei Rui suddenly appeared above him and said that he was just judging him by his appearance. Does that girl know that the guy is engaged? He said he would teach in a lesson for Miss Dai. Hao Ren replied that it wasn't what he thought, and he and Zhao Yanzi didn't. Lei Rui told him to shut up, and when he landed on the ground, he immediately scratched him on the cheek with his fingernail. Then he asked how Hao Ren dared to call Miss Ji by her first name. The guy was surprised. So fast. He asked about whether it was a dragon tribe magic art. Lei Ru didn't respond, but instead punched him in the face, causing him to fly off a little. He doesn't need any art to deal with the guy. He was about to attack again, and with one leg outstretched, he came towards him. Hao Ren noticed that he was approaching and put out his hand to block the blow, but it was too strong, so the guy flew back. Back then, Lei Ru didn't stop hitting him, but kept hitting him in the face and stomach. Hao Ren thought that he was too fast, so he couldn't even dodge and only lay on the asphalt. The attacker called him a weakling and said that to deal with him, you only need combat skills. He grabbed him by the collar and lifted him up, saying that humans are like insects to dragons, they can crush them at any moment. Hao Ren thought that if this continued, he would kill him. He has to do something. Got it. Zhao Yanzi taught him. Direct the energy into his body. Release energy around the body. He should try it. The guy raised his fist over him, and Lei Rui said that his blows can only leave scratches. You should stop resisting. Wait, isn't it? Hao Ren was about to hit him, but he dodged just in time. Almost got it. Lei Rui asked the guy about how he managed to escape. He replied that he was just cultivating as Zhao Yanzi had taught him. And what? Is he afraid that the guy will surpass his level one day? The latter told him not to be conceited, as he had only reached the first level, and he will never be able to master the art of spirit concentration. The next day, Hao Ren came to the Zhao family home again. Mrs. Hongyu, seeing the band-aids on his face, asked what was wrong and if he was okay. The guy replied that he was in good shape, just accidentally fell and hit. Miss Zhe called him a fool and said that she knew he couldn't cultivate well, but she didn't think he was that stupid either. Hao Ren said it was all her fault. Mrs. Zhao asked the guy if he was free for the weekend. They go to the Mountain of Greenstone and he must join them. A mountain of greenstone. The guy asked that this is a famous scenic spot. Then suddenly he found it strange that Miss Z didn't mind. The girl asked why he was looking at her like that. She wasn't the one who invited the guy. A mountain of greenstone. Hao Ren said it was very beautiful here. This is his first time on Greenstone Mountain. Miss Z asked who the redneck was. The guy said that she had to stay at home if she didn't like it. The girl clicked her tongue in displeasure. Lei Ru was hiding around the corner and spying on them. He thought that Hao Ren's smile would soon disappear from his face. Once inside the luxurious hotel, the guy was struck by such beauty. While he was looking around, Hao Ren suddenly discovered that he had lost Zhao Yanzi and the others. In that case, he decided to wait for them in his room. As he stepped into the elevator, he thought about who he was going to live with. Will it be Zhao Yanzi? Placing the key card on the door, he entered the room where Mr. Zhao met him. Wearing a bathrobe, he frowned at the guy and asked where he was. Then I told him to take a shower and sorbitrate. The guy was disappointed, but agreed with him. While walking up the mountain, Miss Zai displeased asked why exactly she had to climb the mountain with him. Hao Ren rubbed the back of his head and replied that Mrs. Hanju and Mr. Zhao insisted that they use the cable car. The girl told him to stay away from her. What he was thinking was that he had promised Mrs. Zhao to take care of Zhao Yanzi. When a snake appeared in the way of the girl, she screamed in fright and tripped over a rock, but Hao Ren came in time and caught it. Then he said that the snake is not poisonous and safe. There are plenty of snakes here, so don't be afraid. Miss Zai immediately recoiled from him and said that she wasn't afraid of anything, it was just disgusting. The guy said everything was fine. He's one of those people who's afraid of snakes. The guy then asked the girl if they could go together. Taking her hand and pulling her along, Hao Ren thought that she was such a little girl. Panting, Yanzi said that it was finally the top of the mountain. She realized that this was the Heavenly Unity Temple where Taoist Master Zhang cultivated. The stone table and millennial trees are amazing. The girl suddenly offered to look at them and pulled the young man with her. He was surprised and wondered why she had suddenly become so active. Is this some kind of trap? The moment they reached the stone, Hao Ren read the inscription on it. By staying in the primordial Tao, one can master presence. Miss Zli said that Master Zhang wrote it himself. If the desire conceals the true self will manifest even more. But if the desire weakens the true self, it will strengthen even more. It's a way to manage water. Hao Ren said that water is extremely soft. It is worth using softness to contain the hardness, so is this a way to manage water? Now he thought he finally understood. Zhao Yanzi suggested that he try the spirit concentration art now. The guy agreed and started cultivating, but suddenly a burly man bumped into him and dropped his phone. He asked the guy why he wasn't looking where he was going, and then told him to pay for his phone. Hao Ren asked the goon what he wanted. The man smiled wryly and said that first he had to pay, and then get down on your knees and apologize to him. Zhao Yanzi got angry and asked how dare he, but she suddenly tripped and fell. The stranger laughed and said that the girl should not create problems for herself, but just get out of the way. Then the guy decided to attack and told him to stay away from Zai. The thug managed to dodge and then angrily asked if he wanted to play hero. Zhao Yanzi saw that he was a cultivator, so she told Hao Ren about it. And also, he is at least at the second level, so he cannot cope with it. Smiling, he told Miss Zidi not to worry about it. Lei Rui sat on the roof and watched the painting. He said that the spirit concentration scroll he gave him wasn't complete. Even if he had luck and level 1, he wouldn't be able to defeat a level 2 cultivator. Hao Ren will be crushed right in front of Miss Dai. Recently, he called this man on the phone. He said he had a list of tasks. What else does he need to do? Lei Rui told him not to touch the girl, just to teach this guy a lesson. Let him do whatever he wants while he's still alive. The man told the boss that he understood everything, so he wants to play hero. Then it will let it start. Hao Ren suddenly ran to the other side and said that he didn't need to, he could enjoy the advantage. He told the man to try to get it. He said that the guy was too confident and tried to catch up with him. Even if he knelt down and begged for mercy right now, she wouldn't forgive him. The man wanted to hit Hao Ren directly with his fists, but Hao Ren managed to jump, so he just hit the ground. The stranger said that the guy runs fast, but what about this? The young man realized that he was very strong. He couldn't beat him in a one-on-one fight, and Zi's leg was injured. He can't just leave her and run away. Everything ahead was covered in dust, but Hao Ren sensed that the man was approaching, so he managed to dodge the attack from behind. It was very close. He destroyed such a large building with just one strike. Is he alive? The man viciously asked him how much longer he was going to dodge. He told the bully that the building couldn't move, but he could. The man again tried to make attempts to grab the guy, but he quickly dodged. Hao Ren thought that this man was very strong, but his speed and reaction time were average. Can it? He suddenly told Tom to catch it and began to wind circles around it. The big guy asked him if he was crazy and why he was running around in circles. While running, Hao Ren kicked up dust that even a man shouted that he couldn't see anything because of it. The guy asked him to knock him down with his strong kick. The goon said that because he asked for it, he will do as he wants. The man ran straight at the young man, who stopped and hit his knee on his leg. Balance softness and hardness. Use softness to hold back hardness. This is the way to manage water. Hao Ren used force to hit the thug, sending him flying into the building. Lei Rui was disappointed by what had happened and thought that he was a real fool. The guy happily ran to the girl and said that he did it. Su said it wasn't bad, all thanks to her method. Lei Rui said that Hao Ren's luck was still with him. They'll wait and see. He won't be able to control the spirit concentration scroll. Hao Ren took the girl on his back and carried her in his arms. Miss Z was displeased and asked him to let her go, as she could go by herself. The guy said she'd hurt her leg. He thanked her for what had happened earlier. The girl said that he was too weak, not even reaching the second level of the spirit concentration scroll. She spent her time taking him to the Greenstone Mountain. Hao Ren was surprised and asked, wasn't it her who suggested this trip? Miss Z told him to forget what she said. Hao Ren was running around in circles in the stadium, and Yujia was watching him with interest from the stands above. The guy was walking down the street and reading a book. Close your eyes and breathe with a clear mind. All thoughts are cleared. The air passing through the sky awakens the earth. You have to inhale, hold your breath, and then nothing will come in or out. The ocean makes thousands of waves. All of a sudden, it hit right on the guy in front. The stranger asked Hao Ren. He replied that it was him and asked how he could help. He replied with a smile that there had been rumors about him recently. He had heard that Miss Su had called him to her office to conduct a remedial lesson. Hao Ren claimed that it was because he didn't listen to her in class and realized that it was Miss Su's other fans. The guy said that he invited him because he was the first student who was in her office. Laughing, the young man replied that he was lucky, then said that he would go if Tom had nothing more to say. The guy grabbed him by the shoulder and asked him how it was possible to communicate with high school students like that. It's so rude of him. Yujia suddenly came running and called out his name. Huang Shuji. She asked what the problem was. Shujia looked at the girl and asked who she was, as well as what kind of relationship she had with him. Yujia claimed to be a classmate of his. Then Hao Ren intervened and took her hand, standing in front of her, saying that he was fine, so there was no need to worry about him. Then the guy smiled and understood, saying that it was her. He'd seen her a couple of times. The girl often comes here to watch him run, doesn't she? Yujia was confused and said that it was just coincidences. Huang Shuji was angry and thought that it wasn't just Miss Su. He has another beautiful girlfriend. Approaching the girl, he touched his chin and asked what was wrong with it. Why was she so obsessed with him? Hao Ren told him to behave and wanted to hit him, but Shuji managed to dodge. The guy asked him to apologize to Yujia. He smiled and asked if he wanted him to apologize. If so, the guy invited him to compete with him. Yujia opened her mouth in surprise. Hao Ren asked what to compete in. The guy asked how about running. The young man seems to be good at it. The school sports day is coming up, and he is competing in the 1,500 meters race. If Hao Ren won, he would apologize to the two of them in front of the entire campus, but if he lost, then he'll lick his shoes in front of everyone. The guy agreed without hesitation. Huang Shuji turned around and told him that they would see each other on the field. When he left, Yujia asked why Hao Ren agreed to this. The guy asked what the problem was. Is he very strong? The girl asked him if he didn't know Huang Shuji. He's the vice captain and ace on their high school basketball team. It will be hard for him to beat him. Hao Ren stated that he should make him apologize to her. The girl said she didn't care what he said. He asked her in embarrassment if it was true that she often watched him run. Yujia blushed and replied that she wasn't. She was just passing by and saw him, but she likes his running. At that moment, Hao Ren had already run away. Huang Shuji took the baton and quickly overtook all the competitors. The girls in the stands cheered for him, shouting Huang Shuji's name. Looks like they have a winner. Someone in the crowd said that this guy is so hot. Hao Ren was warming up next to him, and Si Yujia was standing next to him. She stated that it was no wonder this guy was the ace of the basketball team. He had amazing strength. The guy added that he was also tall, rich, and handsome. The girl asked if he was jealous. Hao Ren looked at her and asked who would she be rooting for. For him or for Huang Shuji? Yujia answered without hesitation what kind of guy. He smiled and said he thought she was a fan too. Si Yuji grudgingly handed him a bottle of water and asked him what he was thinking, then sent him to warm up. Suddenly, someone called the guy's name, and the two turned around at the voice. It was Zhao Yanzi. Hao Ren asked the girl what she was doing here. She came up to him and ruffled his hair, telling him that she had come to watch his race. When Si Yujia walked up to them, the guest introduced herself as Zhao Yanzi, and the latter introduced herself in return. Then she said that, as they said, she was very pretty. Miss Z declared that she wasn't. She was prettier than her. After elbowing the guy in the stomach, she asked Yujia about how she must be Hao Ren's girlfriend, right? She said it wasn't like that. They were just classmates. Tsuyu said she saw her give him water. Yujia replied that since she was the class leader, she often took care of her classmates. Hao Ren stood between the two lights and didn't know what to do with himself. Miss Z told her that she was so kind. Si Yujia replied that she was flattered by such words, and she must be close to Hao Ren. The woman came up to her and whispered to her, asking if she knew that Hao Ren had a big secret. Actually, he's engaged. Si Yujia looked at the guy in surprise. He told her not to listen to this nonsense. Miss Z continued to speak while smiling. She said his fiancée wasn't simple. Suddenly, she announced that the participants of the men's 1500-meter race should get ready under the podium. Hao Ren said it was time to start, so he had to go. Zhao Yanzi wished him luck. And Si Yujia told him to go get ready, but she didn't even have a face on. The men's 1,500 meters race begins. A shot rang out and all the runners jumped out of their seats. The girls in the stands were gossiping. One said that the ace of the basketball team will definitely win. Another told her that she had heard him argue with someone whose name was Hao Ren. From the crowd, they said in a dissatisfied voice, "What kind of joke is this? This lowlife will never defeat Huang Shuji." The others agreed with her. Hao Ren ran with all his might, trying to outrun the other runners. Huang Shuji's fans continued to shout from the stands, wanting him to defeat Hao Ren. Only 2 people believed in him. Miss Z viciously said that Hao Ren wouldn't lose. Just wait, and then everyone will see it. The guy thought that he couldn't let this continue. He must pass them from the outside lane. Accelerating, he charged forward. The commentator was surprised and reported that Hao Ren, who was ranked 5th, had suddenly overtaken the 3 contestants. He is undoubtedly strong. Si Yujia was happy because Hao Ren was now in 2nd place. That's cool. Miss Jia smiled contentedly. The commentator announced that Hao Ren had closed the distance between him and Huang Shuji. Huang Shuji, seeing the guy from the corner of his eye, was surprised. He decided to speak up. The ace of the basketball team is undoubtedly cool. He had just increased the distance, and the race is about to end. The last corner before the finish is left. Hao Ren thought that he didn't have much time. He needed to be much faster. Shuji turned to him and asked him what had happened. Was he already thinking about how he was going to get his shoes licked in the stands? Suddenly, from the stands, Miss Z shouted loudly and told Hao Ren to pass him. Yujia told her to be careful not to fall. The guy thought about what was easier said than done. After all, he's an ace in basketball, but he won't lose. Feel the humidity in the air. Turn it into a force, shaped or formless, invisible image. A way to control water, control K. Each method has something in common. Controlling Ki, like controlling water, make his body feel lighter. Zhao Yanzi was surprised, and looking at the guy, she realized that it was spiritual energy. Is he making a breakthrough? Hao Ren's body was filled with strength, and he ran even faster, catching up to Huang Xiuji. He was thrilled to see it so close again, but this is pointless because they have only 100 meters left to finish. He will be the winner. Hao Ren knew that this wasn't enough. It should get even easier and faster. Having accelerated to the limit, he suddenly caught up with the guy, and then together with him tore off the finish tape. It turned out that Hao Ren was the first to break the ribbon and arrive at the finish line, so he declared that he won with a big smile. Huang Xiuji collapsed on the path, not understanding anything. Not happening. Impossible. Shi Yujia and Zhao Yanzi hugged, happily exclaiming that Hao Ren had won. The two of them then ran to the guy's side to congratulate him on his victory. Suddenly, Yujia stopped Z and asked if she had lied about Hao Ren being engaged. He's still a student. She realized that she must be so worried about it. Back then, she asked Yujia about what she would do if it turned out to be true. The girl replied in frustration that then, she can only congratulate him. Laughing, Zhao Yanzi said that she was taking everything too seriously. They went to the guy's place together. Shi Yujia told Hao Ren that he had done a good job today. Zhao replied that it wasn't bad. The guy suddenly stopped them and walked towards Huang Xiuji. He told him not to forget about their agreement and apologized to Yujia now. The guy got up and said what about earlier, he's very sorry. Huang Xiuji immediately ran off the field. He thought that this wasn't the end for him and Hao Ren. Hao Zhen smiled and told the girl that he had kept his promise. She smiled and thanked him. Miss Z sighed in displeasure, and then the guy turned to her. Did she ask him about how he finally remembered a third extra like her? The guy smiled and said that he always remembers her, and he needs to thank her. Hao Ren thanked her for encouraging him at the last moment. That's why he won. The girl blushed and turned away, saying that she knew he wouldn't get anywhere without her. Shi Yujia told Z that they were having a holiday party later and asked her if she would go. Miss Jia said that since she was inviting her, of course she would come. Lei Ru was spying on them again and said that he was underestimating the guy after all. He had already reached the second level like this. Zhao Jiang said that he wanted to raise a toast to the winner of the men's 1500-meter race, Hao Ren. He stated that he knew the guy could run, but he didn't expect him to beat Huang Xiuji. His friend stated that it must be because of the power of love. Why is he surrounded by so many beautiful girls? Hao Ren said he was just lucky, that's all. Suddenly, a crowd of guys rushed into the cafe and one of them asked the guy if he was Hao Ren. The guy asked he lie Hao Ren? Hao Ren asked what the difference was. The stranger asked him if it was winning the race that made him so confident. He's so annoying. Then Zhao Yanzi stood in front of him and said that this was none of his business, this was not his home. Shi Yujia realized that these guys were members of the basketball team. The guy said that Ak had just lost in the 1500-meter race, so how does he want to compete with him? In basketball? The stranger got angry and said that this is so, but he will not be lucky this time. When they were on the basketball court, the guy said that he would win if he scored 1 point. He didn't want to hear that he was being bullied later. The goon handed him the ball. Hao Ren accepted the ball and said that if he won, then he should never cause trouble for him and his friends in the future. Zhao Jiang clutched his head in frustration, saying that Hao Ren didn't know how to play basketball at all. Shi Yujia stared at him, gripping her phone tightly. She texted someone to come here right away. Then they announced the start of the game. A big man appeared in front of Hao Ren, blocking him. The man quickly rushed past him, and the guy thought that he was quite strong for a beginner. But a rookie is just a rookie, so the big guy hit him. Hao Ren thought that he had interrupted his dribbling. He can't do it now. It's like a mountain that a young man can't get around. The guy was about to score, aiming his sword up. The big man was surprised, trying to forget after he realized he didn't have a chance. However, this was just a trick, and the young man suddenly threw the ball from the side, saying that it was not necessary to underestimate him. Hao Ren thought that he wouldn't be able to stop him since he had blocked him, so he would be able to score this point. He shouted that it was all over, and no matter how hard the big guy tried to get the ball, he couldn't. Hao Ren scored a point. The guys on the basketball team were surprised. He jumped back and scored with his weak hand. Ordinary people can't do that. Suddenly, a ball hit him in the face. The coach came and said that he was causing problems again. Yuji smiled and ran towards Hao Ren. She said she didn't know he was so good at basketball. He jumped so high, almost like a god. Miss Jia turned around in displeasure and announced that the race was over. Let the two of them have fun, and she was about to leave. The guy ran to her and said that it was already late. It wasn't safe for her to go home alone. Hao Ren asked the girl to wait for him. Then he asked her why she was angry. He had won, and he hadn't shamed her. Zitzed resentfully and asked if he was sure he wanted to leave Yujia here alone. Hao Ren said that he had previously said that they were just friends. Was she jealous? Miss Jia got angry and asked what he was talking about, starting to beat him up. The guy was asking her to stop. He had to say it. Miss Su called Hao Ren back to her office and touched his stomach, saying that he had reached the second level, which was not bad. The girl decided to give him something. This is a necklace with a special property that will help hide his aura. The guy, putting it on, suddenly felt completely different. The necklace absorbs his excess energy and allows it to move into his body. This will only work for a month, so the guy should reach level 3 in that time frame. After all, if other inspectors saw him, they would question him or even order him around. The third level is not the same as the first two. All of his 108 acupuncture points will be opened when he makes a breakthrough, and people with weak wills will die or suffer severe pain. She told him to cultivate until he felt it. Hao Ren started cultivating. Miss Su looked at him thoughtfully and said that he understood quite well. Suddenly, he got a phone call. It was his neighbor, Mr. John. The guy picked up the phone and the man told him to go home faster because his grandmother fell and lost consciousness. Hao Ren was so surprised that he dropped the phone from his hand. He remembered the image of his grandmother. I remembered how the children mocked him as a child and said that no one needed him. Hao Ren told them that it wasn't true. His parents work far away and will be arriving soon. But everyone just laughed at him and said that they had abandoned him because no parents leave their children for a few years. Then his grandmother would come and viciously ask who was bullying her grandson. Everyone immediately scattered, leaving only Hao Ren, who was crying bitterly. Grandma said they were all lucky today. Then she hugged her grandson and reassured him that everything was fine. She's here with him. In the evening, she prepared his favorite food for him, fried chicken. Hao Ren was not happy. He shouted that he didn't want it. He wants his mom and dad. The chicken fell to the floor and the plate broke. Grandma began to pick up the pieces. She told her grandson that he should not worry, because they will return. She'll beat them up if they don't come. Hao Ren would start crying again and run to his grandmother's arms. She said that even if they didn't come back, she would be with him. From these memories, the guy suddenly threw up blood. He was weak. Miss Su ran up to him and said that the change of mood couldn't happen too quickly. Hao Ren said he didn't care. He must save his grandmother. The ambulance driver spoke to Hao Ren on the phone and said that there was an accident on the Guojing Bridge, and therefore it will only be possible to pass through after the road is cleared. It would take him an hour to reach it. The guy hit the wall with his fist in anger and thought about what to do. An ambulance has to cross the bridge to get to his house, but the accident stopped them. He tried to make a call, but the operator reported that the number he dialed was not responding. Please call back later. He wrote a message to Mrs. Hongyu saying that his grandmother was ill and now the ambulance could not reach his house. He asked the woman if she would help take her to the hospital. It's urgent. Hao Ren immediately ran when a text message came back to him. Mrs. Hongyu wrote that she would pick her up, and he had to go to the East City Hospital. He mentally thanked the woman. When the guy arrived at the hospital, he shouted to wait for him. An elderly woman who just came here is in danger. Hao Ren ran into the room and saw his grandmother lying on the bed, thinking, how can this be? No, Miss Z was in the next bed and said that he annoyed her. He woke up my grandmother. Half an hour ago, Miss Z was sitting in the back seat with her grandmother. The girl said that it looks like she hurt her head when she fell. It would be too late if they just took her in an ambulance with this injury. She decided to use her powers. Lei Ru, who was driving, told Miss Z that she couldn't use her powers without her dragon core. The girl said that she should cure her now. The wound on my grandmother's head that had been bleeding suddenly healed. She's healing. It's good. Suddenly, Miss Zai herself fainted. Lei Ru told Hao Ren that Yanzi saved his grandmother's life. She was so weak without the dragon core. The girl said he talked too much. But the guy continued, saying that she even lost consciousness. Miss Zvi said that her mom was in the kitchen and she didn't see his message, but she happened to notice it. Don't think about it. Hao Ren thought it was her. Thanks to Zi's help, my grandmother became better. My grandmother met this girl and said that she was so sweet and kind, she would be a great wife. Hao Ren laughed at his grandmother's words. Kind? She's a little devil. His grandmother glared at him. The guy felt that he was not a priority. Hao Ren walked among the students and thought about how old he was. Class 3 to 8. The boys were talking about how cute Zhao Yanzi was. And impatient, that's why. One of the guys said that he didn't care about her temperament if she was his girlfriend. Hao Ren realized that Zhao Yanzi was quite popular. He knocked on the office door and opened it, saying hello, saying that he had come to pick up Yanzi. The teacher looked at him suspiciously and asked who he was. Why hadn't she seen him here before? The guy scratched his head and said he was her brother. Her parents sent him here. The teacher said she should be on the tennis court. And, by the way, she asked me to tell her parents that Zhao Yanzi hangs out with one boy too much. She has a puppy love problem. The guy was surprised by her words. It turns out that a lot of guys sent her love letters, and recently she often sees one high school student. Hao Ren was upset and thought that he had come for her because she had saved his grandmother's life, but now she would surely blame him since the guy interrupted her time with a boyfriend. Zhao Yanzi was called out by someone. Ren watched her play and thought that Z was so good at it, stunningly. He was thinking about who the lucky guy was. One of the guys told the girl that it was a good game. But what about 2 more rounds? Tzu said she was busy. Hao Ren was standing among the girls and they were not happy. One of them said that those high school students had come to harass Z again. Another viciously stated that they didn't even care if Zhao Yanzi had a boyfriend. They wanted to go and find a teacher. Ren was angry. The guys playing tennis told her not to be so serious because playing with them wouldn't hurt her. Another agreed with his words. Suddenly, Hao Ren grabbed his hand and said that it just so happened that he was free, so he offered to play with him. The girl was surprised to see him and asked why he was here. The guy looked at Miss Z and told her to give him 10 minutes and he would escort her home. He stood on one side of the tennis field and those 2 guys were up against him. The young man told them to prepare for his anger and catch the ball. He hit the ball so hard that it smashed into the wall. Everyone was surprised. They said that his blows were deadly, asked for help and said that they were wrong. They would not do it again. The guy said that his physical stats were scary. He mocks the weak, so shame on him. Hao Ren told them to just admit defeat and never bother Yanzi again. He smiled and held out his hand to the girl, telling her to go home with him. Zhao Yanzi folded her arms and told him not to think that he was good just because he helped her leave. He didn't seem to understand. Helped me leave? He was just passing by. The girl angrily asked him what he said. The boy grinned maliciously. Yanzi said that she wanted to take him to the Dragon Palace, but now, no way. Now, Hao Ren himself ran after her, asking how come. When the 2 of them arrived at the palace, the boy looked around in surprise. Hao Ren said that this is the legendary Dragon Palace. There were guards on both sides of them, and they all bowed to welcome Her Highness home. The guy was surprised, then stumbled upon a live flower and screamed in horror, then saw a huge creature. Miss Z reached out to him, and when he bowed his head, she stroked him. Suddenly, they were blinded by the floodlights. On the stairs, a man with crayfish greeted Her Highness. Hao Ren was surprised by what he saw. Miss Zai yawned and turned to the guy, telling him to take a walk by himself, as she needed to get some sleep. She left the guy for the man. He obediently obeyed her and said that he would show him everything here. The guy turned his head from side to side, walking around everything. The man respectfully pointed out the way. Hao Ren saw the tower and asked what it was. He was told that it was an ice palace. It is a prison for lawbreakers. Fairies that came to the human world without permission and other criminals will be imprisoned here. No criminal will ever escape from the ice palace. Hao Ren suddenly touched one of the ice crystals, and it suddenly shattered into tiny fragments. The guy asked what was going on and shouted. The man shouted at him and asked how he was able to completely destroy the ice. It seems that his spiritual energy is very unusual. It's amazing that it resonates so much with ice capsules. He said it was serious, so he asked the guy to stay put and keep an eye on the one he had just released. He must inform His Majesty of this. The girl suddenly turned to Hao Ren and asked if he was the one who broke the ice and freed her. He replied in confusion that it was completely accidental. The girl bowed and thanked him for sparing her life. Then she introduced herself as Lu Lilan. Suddenly a girl came in and was surprised that she came out. She asked why Lilan did it, because if the Sky World found out about her escape. Lilan stated that it had been so long they must have already forgotten about them. They were maids in the heavenly world. Lilan was sentenced to 200 years in prison for entering the human world without permission. Her friend said that she thought they would never be able to talk to her like this. The girls joined hands. Hao Ren said that they should get out of here now. If anyone else sees them, they can trap her in ice again. Lilan asked the guy worriedly, "What about him?" Releasing a criminal without an order is also a crime. Zhao Guang towered on the throne in front of Hao Zhen and shouted at him. The guy wanted to justify himself, but the man interrupted him with his laughter. He said that the girl had sent a petition a long time ago, but he had forgotten to release her. His son-in-law did a good job. The guy and the girls were shocked by what they heard. Suddenly, they ran up to him from both sides and hugged him, calling him the savior. Zhao Yanzi came out and rubbed her eyes, asking what they were doing here. She said they were too noisy, that she couldn't even take a little nap. All of a sudden, she saw Hao Ren in the arms of two girls and viciously asked the guy about what he was doing. When the Lu Lai twins, Lai and Lu Lingling, were gently hugging Hao Zhen and vigorously thanking him for saving them, Zhao Yanzi entered the hall and found them doing so. The princess was furious. What's this kid doing? Hao Ren was very uncomfortable with the situation that he was in, not because of his own will, but because of the rampant feelings of the twins. The old man who was entrusted with Hao Ren had told him in confidence that the princess would have her birthday next month. Why didn't he buy a present to cheer her up a little? He thought that was a good idea. Perhaps a good gift would make up for his guilt towards the princess. He thought about how Zhao Yanzi needed help with English, so he will give her a couple of reference books to help her improve it. It will be the perfect gift. He went to the bookstore and carefully looked at the books on the shelves, trying to choose what he needed. Among the many books, there was no way he could choose one in particular. He thought about buying them all to show the princess his sincerity. Suddenly, he noticed Stay Yujia, who was right there. The girl, who also noticed Hao Zhen, said that it was an interesting coincidence that they met here just like that. They left the store together and went to a nearby cafe for a cup of coffee. Shi Yujia asked the youth, so he was looking for a birthday present for Z. Hao Ren replied that she was his disciple after all. The girl asked him what books he had chosen. She asked to see them. When Yujia saw what he had bought, she was simply shocked. Reference books for girls are too much. She told the young man that girls like cute things and suggested that they go to another store where such things are sold. Hao Ren liked the ring in the shape of a little devil. He thought that this ring was just like the Zai style. After all, she constantly commands him. Although, sometimes she can be really cute. Shi Yujia asked him, is he really going to give Zai a ring? Ren replied that it was quite nice. The girl noticed that it is really cute, but it is a suitable gift only for the bride or his girlfriend. It would be rather strange to give such a gift to your student. Ren agreed with her and thought, why did he choose the ring? Was he really already considering Z as his bride? Impossible. He treats her like a child. He told Yujia that then he would buy her some plush toy. He took a bear from the window and said that this toy looks quite funny. Shi Yujia noticed that he was very worried about this. The young man replied that, after all, she was still his future wife. He broke off in mid-sentence, explaining to her what he wanted to say. She was his future donor. She's a future peace donor. As the young man and the girl walked out of the store together, Ren thought about how he had lied to Yujia about Zai. He apologized to Yujia and said that he had taken up a lot of her time. She said it was nothing, but if he really wanted to thank her, then let him go out with her. Yujia invited Hao Ren to go with her to her idol's lectures. They are very popular now. The youngster said that he would never have thought that she had idols. After all, she was always so serious at school, he didn't know that she was also a fan. The girl enthusiastically told him that they were the best Chinese scientists in the world. The whole world is watching the project they are working on. Ren was surprised that her idols were scientists. Yujia continued to talk about her idols and reported that they became academicians at a fairly young age. Then she hurried him on because the lecture was about to start. They went into the hall where the meeting with scientists was taking place and sat down in chairs. When the lecture ended, Yujia reproachfully told him that he had slept through the entire lecture. Does he have any idea how hard it was to get tickets here? Hao Ren thought about how he had stayed up late because he needed to practice, and the girl replied that as compensation for his indecent sleep, he would get an autograph for her. The girl told him that he was sleepy lately, he needed to sleep more. He took the program from Yujia's hand and went to the idols to get their autographs. His eyes met his mother's. An unsuspecting Yujia turned to his parents and told Mr. Hao and Mrs. Yu that she was a fan. Then, after seeing the scientists' reactions, she asked Ren if he really knew them. Hao Ren said no. Mr. Hao told his wife that his son hadn't forgiven them yet. And Yujia cheerfully told Hao Ren that he had the same surname as the idols. They'd probably had a common ancestor. Mrs. Yu thanked the girl for coming to their lecture. Then she asked if her boyfriend was with her. Yujia hurriedly replied, "Not yet." The woman asked, "Does this mean that he can still become one?" The girl replied that this was not what she meant. She said goodbye to the scientists, took Ren's hand, and they ran outside. Mr. Hao said sadly as he watched them go that they had spent too much time on their research and failed like their parents. Miss Yu added, no matter what, she is relieved to see their son with this friend. Hao Ren and Yujia were sitting on a bench in the school park, talking. The girl said that she finally met her idols, but she couldn't even ask them a few questions. Ren said it was normal and thought about how he didn't know how cute she could be. And the girl replied that this is not normal. He has no idea how amazing these people are. He thought about how no one could imagine it better than him, but he said out loud that they were really super delicious. Yujia advised him to read their books too, and even handed him one. Suddenly, a classmate called them and told them that Zhao Jian was fighting with the basketball team, and they needed to do something about it. When Hao Ren and Yujia ran into the school's gymnasium, they saw an unpleasant scene. Chuan Xuji, the star of the high school basketball team, had knocked Zhao Jian to the floor, demanding something from him. Jian told him that if he asked him even 1,000 times, his answer wouldn't change. Hao Ren is cooler than Chuan Xuji. The basketball player grinned and turned to the team behind him, ordering them to teach Zhao Jian a proper lesson so that he wouldn't be so stubborn and admit defeat. The basketball team members were determined to kick the young man, but they were interrupted by Hao Ren, who ordered them to stop immediately. The leader of the basketball team, Zhuang Xuji, said with irony as he looked back at the youth that there was another hero who also wanted to die. If they call an ambulance now, maybe the doctors can save his life. Zhao Jiang advised Ren to leave immediately. However, Hao Ren had no intention of doing so. He turned to the basketball gang and said that he had already warned them to stay away from his friends. They had driven him. Then he remembered what Su-Han had said, telling him that his mood swings couldn't pass too quickly. Back then, she had advised him to stay calm if he wanted to survive. It was the excitement caused by the beating of his friend that had a negative effect on his body. Blood came out of his mouth, and he dropped to one knee. Someone on the team said Ren wasn't that cool. They'd asked him what the problem was. If he's so cool, then let him get up and kick their ass. One of them said that Hao Ren looked like a corpse. The whole pack of them rushed at Ren. Taking advantage of his temporary helplessness, they attacked him and began to beat him severely. Yujia tried to help the youth, but she was stopped by saying that these guys were frostbitten. They can beat her up. The girl exclaimed that if no one stopped these hooligans, Ren would die. Kai Ronghua tried to stop the bandits, but was quickly silenced by a punch to the face. Seeing that his friends were being beaten again, Hao Ren struggled to his feet, feeling weak and sore. He said they'd hit his friends again. Someone rushed up to him and told him that if he could stand up again, he would fix this misunderstanding now. But the strength, skills, and rage returned to the youth's body. 1 minute later, the entire high school basketball team was lying quietly on the floor, moaning and sobbing. Yujia rushed towards Hao Ren. Suhan also entered the hall and placed her hand on the young man's shoulder, saying, after all, she told him not to be nervous. Then she asked Yujia to go get the vice principal, Mr. Liu, while she took care of Hao Ren. When Hao Ren woke up, he saw Suhan's face bent over him. The young man immediately asked about the condition of his classmates, who were attacked by basketball players. Miss Su replied that they were perfectly fine, but he almost died. She also told him to avoid emotional swings. He didn't listen to her and even beat up these mortals. Hao Ren firmly replied that he didn't regret it. No one has the right to hurt his friends. Su said that he was incredibly lucky. She would forgive him this time, but if it happened again, she would punish him herself. As Hao Ren was about to leave the school's gymnasium after thanking Miss Su for her help, the teacher told him that the basketball game against Tsinghua University was taking place next month. He'll be in big trouble if he beats someone up again. Ren promised to take responsibility for his actions. Su said that he was very naive. These bandits wouldn't be far behind his classmates anyway. The young man replied that he would not allow this to happen right under his nose. The teacher thought that this boy was very hot-tempered. Never would she have thought that she would need the identity of the Princess Fiance. Hao Ren was in the reception area of the school's deputy director. Inside, Shi-Wan Jun, the school's basketball coach and legend, was talking to him. He made the East Ocean University basketball team well recognized across the country. He was the heart of this team. Even the headmaster was forced to treat him with great respect. Ren thought that he was doomed if the coach complained about him to the director. The battered basketball players entered the reception area. They threatened him, saying that he should apologize to the principal, that the police would put him in jail, and that his friends would be kicked out of school with him. He was just about to teach them a lesson again when Coach Shi Wanjin came out of the vice principal's office. He ordered everyone to be quiet and observe silence. The bandaged Xuan Shuji asked the coach to punish this guy because he was the one who beat them up. Jen apologized to the coach, but tried to explain that the members of the basketball team themselves attacked his classmates before that. The coach turned to Hao Ren and said that these guys wouldn't bother him anymore. Ren was overjoyed and replied that he was also overreacting. He shouldn't have beaten them up so much. Wan Jun told him that he didn't need to apologize. He has already received compensation. Everyone saw the receptionist taping a sign over the door of the reception area. On the door of the reception area, Hao Ren saw a notice from the Youth Affairs Department stating that the members of the basketball team under Jai Xiang's leadership bullied the students of the school and had a bad influence on them, resulting in a fight. For all this, basketball players will receive a strict reprimand. The actions of Hao Zhen and his friends are considered self-defense, so they will not be punished. However, since the basketball game is about to start and some of the team members are seriously injured, Hao Ren must join the team as a player. The battered team members were outraged. Will he join the team as a player? That's a hell of a lot. The coach told them that this is his compensation, that this is his compensation, that this is his compensation, that this is his compensation. The basketball team of East Ocean University was preparing hard for the upcoming match with the team of Tsinghua University. They were faced with the task of defeating this rather strong team at all costs. Coach Chai Wan-jun announced to the team that Hao Ren is their heavy forward starting today. The team members were outraged because he was just a rookie. How can the coach allow him to be a forward? After all, a heavy forward is the position of the fourth number in the team, which is usually played by physically tall and strong players who spend most of their time under someone else's ring. The coach silently threw the ball into Hao Ren's hands and asked him to show what he could do. The young man picked up the ball and rushed to the ring. In front of the whole team, he demonstrated technical dribbling and scored the ball into the basket from above in a high jump. Everyone whispered that Hao Ren's jump was very high, and the way he could control his strength was simply unbelievable. Hao Ren, analyzing his technique, thought that his posture was not very stable when throwing. He will need to jump with his left foot next time. The whole team was thrilled, except for one person, the leader of the basketball team, Zhuang Xuji. After training in the gym, the coach told Hao Ren to follow him. They went out to the outdoor basketball court, where a girl was practicing alone. Ren recognized her as Yujia. She greeted them both cheerfully. The coach introduced her to Ren and said that Tae Yujia was his younger sister. She will be his personal trainer today. The girl told her brother to return to the team and let the young man safely leave in her care. Ren asked her after Won Jun left, is it really true that she is going to teach him how to play basketball? Si Yujia sternly asked him, what is it? Did he start underestimating other people after defeating those guys? She plays pretty well. She suggested that he try blocking it. The girl took the ball and started moving. She told him to keep low and watch her every move. To his surprise, the girl technically circled him and rushed to the ring. However, he stopped her with an illegal move. They both fell to the grass. Si Yujia explained to him that this was not the right thing to do. This is a violation of the... At the round, richly laid table in the Zhao household, representatives of the two families gathered. Hao Ren's parents, his grandmother, Zhao Guang and his wife, and his younger brother Kuo were also present. Hao Ren's father, looking at Zai, said that it was hard to believe that such a nice lady saved his mother. Miss Yu added that Zai is very cute and wonderful. She would like to have a daughter like that. The wife of the head of the house said that they might have a beautiful daughter-in-law. Yu replied that Ren already had a girlfriend. She recently came to their lecture. Hao Ren blushed and told his mother that she didn't know what she was talking about. That girl is just a classmate of his. Kuo, Uncle Tzu, slammed his fist down on the table and said to the young man that he was a real ladies' man, good for nothing. Guam rebuked him and said that he was sorry for his younger brother's behavior. He's not very good at choosing his words. Meanwhile, Sue whispered to her uncle that he was very kind to her. Then the girl said that some high school students harassed her. Kuo, again unable to restrain himself, emotionally demanded to know their names so that he could teach them a proper lesson. However, Z stated that Ren had already done so. Mama Zai thought about how she had never seen her daughter stand up for someone like this before. After the meal was over, the Zhao family said goodbye to the Hao family members on the terrace of the house. Z apologized to Mr. and Mrs. Hao, as well as to Mrs. Yu for being rude. However, she was interrupted by grateful representatives of the other side, who assured her that she should not speak like that. They should be the ones thanking her. Mr. Hao inadvertently said that he wished that he and Ren would get married. Miss Yu seems to prefer a different girl. Mother Z gently nudged her and asked her to come to the young man. She reluctantly went over and handed him a red card, telling him not to miss it. Then she ran into the house. Hao Ren looked at the card and saw that it was an invitation for Zhao Yanzi's birthday. He belatedly told her not to worry. There's no way in hell he's going to miss this birthday party. Suhan carefully placed the bracelet on her arm and told Ren that she would never have thought that he would give her something. The young man replied that he could not have done otherwise because she helped him many times, even this story with the basketball team. The teacher asked if he had already prepared for Z's birthday, which would be next month, right? The young man replied that he had already bought her a present. Suhan said that wasn't what she was asking him. Does he really have no idea what's really going on? The dragons of the Four Oceans clans are the most outstanding among all the others, and the East Ocean Dragon clan is the strongest of them all. However, recently they have become too involved in human affairs. In particular, the new generation is not as strong as the previous ones. Besides, Zhao Yanzi's cultivation level is too low. The West Ocean Dragon clan is now gaining strength. Zhang Hitao, the Crown Prince, is the strongest among the younger generation. They start wars and try to take the place of the East Ocean Dragon clan. The two clans are on terrible terms. Hao Ren retorted to her, saying that he had seen many treasures sent by the West Ocean clan in the Dragon Palace. Su-Han was once again surprised by the youth's naivete. She said it was because Zhang Yutao wanted to marry Zhe. She is the sole heir of the East Ocean clan. He wants to lead their line by marrying Zai. The young man asked Han, did Mr. Zhao not understand their intentions? The teacher replied that even if he paid attention to it, what could he do? Saint Ik doesn't dare propose to Tsubu. And unfortunately, the Eastern dragons aren't strong enough to clash with the Western ones. Ren is a human being. Everyone was surprised that after eating the Zai core by mistake, he was betrothed to her. Therefore, at her birthday party, all the attention will be focused on him. The Western dragons wouldn't give up on their plan. They would press Z to marry Zhang Yutao. And this means that they will enlist the support of many elders. Hao Ren indignantly asked Su-Han, so they're going to take Zhe away by force. Su confirmed the young man's guess. His weakness will only serve them right. If the princess of the East Ocean Dragon Clan marries a person who can't even cultivate, then no Dragon Clan will accept it, not the West Ocean Clan, nor any other. Hao Ren said thoughtfully, so he was putting Zhe in danger. Su-Han looked into the young man's eyes and told him that he had to go all out in order to finally reach the Kang level and become a cultivator, or he and Zidi would be doomed. Ren proudly said that he had already reached the 3rd level and understood how spiritual concentration works. But Su-Han wasn't impressed by his words. She replied that for some reason, even after reaching the 3rd level, his spiritual energy was still too weak for the Kang level. Ren assured her that he would find a way to reach it. He wouldn't let anyone harm Z, no matter how. When he returned to the dorm, he was informed that 2 beautiful girls were waiting impatiently for him there. Sure enough, to Ren's horror, the twins Lu Laili and Lu Lingling were waiting for him, who immediately took his arms and asked for his permission to serve him. The young man asked to be left alone and ran away. He was standing around the corner of the house from his annoying sisters when a voice called out to him. It belonged to Wanling, the beauty of the East Ocean University campus. Her family was second only to Zhao Guang's in business. She asked Ren, did he set up a date for her here and write her a love letter? She knows she's irresistible and super popular, but she's too good for him. In any case, she already likes something. This is Su Jixuan, a star player on the East Ocean University basketball team, a tall, attractive, and popular youth. Only such guys are worthy of it. The girls who accompanied her whispered in her ear that this young man seemed to be Hao Ren. Wan Ling, despite this warning, said that he must have fallen in love with her. No wonder he always bothers her boyfriend, Shuji. But he obviously couldn't see himself at all. She's just not on his level. Just then, the twins appeared at the end of the street, approaching Ren with incredible speed and shouting that they had finally found him. They wrapped him in a hug that was incredibly difficult to extricate himself from. They said he couldn't escape them now. The beautiful Wanling's mouth dropped open. Liu Lai Li asked Ren if he was okay. Wanling came to her senses and asked who they were. The twins replied that they were Hao Ren's personal maids. The main beauty of the university did not find what to say and, accompanied by her girls, left. Ren reminded the twins that he didn't need any maids. Then the girls asked to be allowed to stay with him just like that. They could help him with his cultivation. In Hao Ren's apartment, the alarm went off. He opened his eyes and heard the sound of running water in the shower. He went to the door and looked in. There, the twins were splashing under a stream of water. What are they doing in his apartment? Instead of answering, they hugged him again. Living together with these beautiful twins was becoming unbearable. And 3 days ago, Hao Ren, with the help of Liu Lingling and Lu Lai Lai, was studying and practicing the light path sword technique. One of the twins, Lu Lai Lai, said that she was afraid this technique wasn't suitable for him. Because reaching the Kang level is the foundation for a novice cultivator, so they should practice more basic cultivation techniques. Liu Linglin added, whatever he chooses should be a perfect match for him. She asked him if he had ever heard of physical characteristics. Ren replied that he had heard that Miss Su had a water metal body type, but he didn't know anything about her characteristics. Lai Li told him that the spiritual concentration technique not only broadened his meridians, but also allowed him to strengthen his body. So it doesn't matter what its characteristics are. but they are very important for reaching the can level. The twins put their hands on him and explored his body. They said that his body is a chaotic mixture of the 5 elements. Lai Lai said that the light path sword technique is the best 5-element cultivation technique designed specifically for cultivators with a 5-element body type in the spirit world. A 5-element body type consists of a complete set of elements that differ from a chaotic combination of 5 elements. The 5-element body type energy made up of 5 elements is similar to 5 parallel pillars that support the cultivation power. The best 5-element cultivation techniques strengthen each pillar evenly. Linlin added that the energy of the chaotic mixture of the 5 elements is like mixed colored sand. It cannot be divided. Cultivators usually choose the sand that is most common among the rest and exclude the rest. Lai Li thought about it and said that the water cultivation technique would probably be the best for him. It is powerful and good for both attacking and defending. Ren asked the twins what they could say about the best 5-element techniques. They replied that its cultivation would be more gentle and durable, and all 5 elements would be improved at the same pace. But it will take about 4 times longer to reach the same level as the others. Even in the spirit world, not many people practice this. The young man agreed with them. He said that Zhe and he have different physical characteristics. He might injure her if he didn't transfer his spiritual energy to her, but that won't happen if he cultivates all 5 elements equally well. Linlin said that the light path sword technique would be the best for him. The young man replied that then he would practice it. Hao Ren sat on the bed in the lotus position and thought about how he had guessed that cultivating this technique would be slow, but who knew that it would be so slow? If this continued, he wouldn't be able to pass through the Kang level by Z's birthday. There was a knock on the door of the room. They were twins. They informed him that they had found the cultivation key of the light path sword technique. Hao Ren asked them with interest, what did they find? The girls asked him for a little time because they need to get ready first. Then the twin sisters changed their clothes and assumed the appearance of strict teachers and began to lecture Hao Ren, who, although displeased with their appearance, prepared to listen carefully. Lai Lai started. She said that the light path sword has 7 levels. From low to high, it looks like this: Tianshu, Tianxuan, Tiangi, Tianquan, Yuang, Kaiyang, Yaguan. Each level has 9 steps. The main thing is to strengthen and combine the 5 elements at the same time. Linlin added that the purest 5 elements will become lightning when mixed together. The twins were forced to admit that they had been wrong before. And the light path sword is actually a lightning cultivation. Everyone knows that cultivators are afraid of the celestial, but no one knows why. In fact, lightning is a mixture of 5 elements. However, ordinary cultivators only have 1 or 2 elements that suit them well. That's why they can't live without misery. The youth asked them, so lightning cultivators are invincible? Linlin answered in the affirmative. She said their power was terrifying. But it is difficult for them to progress, as they have to strengthen all 5 elements at the same time, so the number of them is reduced. Lai Lai had told him that he had to reach at least the first step of the Tianxuan level if he wanted to break through to the Kang realm. She approached Ren and said that she and her sister should check on his body. They pressed their bodies close to it, and Lai Lai said that its metal is at the 7th stage of the Qianshu level, wood is at the 9th stage of the Qianshu level, and water is at the 3rd stage of the Tianxuan level. The fire is located at the 8th Qianshu stage. Earth is at the 6th Qianshu stage. Lai Li then told Ren that he was practicing the water element cultivation technique, so the power of the 5 elements in his body was unbalanced. They intend to do everything possible to help him absorb the other 4 elements. Then she pushed him in the chest, and when the young man asked what she was doing, she replied that they were trying to help him, of course. Ren fell on the bed, and the sisters rushed at him to remove his t-shirt. They asked him to relax and began massaging his body, saying that they would help him so much every day. This is useful for cultivating it. One day, the twins announced that its elements had reached the 9th stage of the dove level. Ren really felt a big change in himself. He was getting closer to breaking through. Lu Lingling told him that even so, his cultivation base was still not enough to break through to the Kang realm. The young man replied that it didn't matter now. He found something more interesting. It was Tzu's birthday. The princess' birthday party has begun. Zhao Guang greeted Hao Ren warmly and told him that he hadn't seen him in a while. Welcome to his daughter's birthday party. Many of the guests told Guan, pointing out Ren, that he must be their future son-in-law. He looks like a very nice guy, young and promising. Zhao Guang thanked them for their compliments to Hao Ren and invited them to have fun. Ren, listening to all this, thought that it is very difficult to withstand certain social situations. Mother Tzu turned to him and suggested that he must have been tired from meeting the guests. She advised him to find Zai, who was obviously preparing for the celebration. Hao Ren went to look for Zai with the gift box. He thought about how he hadn't seen the girl since the family gathering. Was she still mad at him? Meanwhile, Zhao Yanzi was putting makeup on her face in the company of servants. Then she told them to go out because she didn't like too much makeup. At this time, Hao Ren entered the room. He stared at her in silence, holding the box in his hands. The girl told him to stop staring at her. Ren complimented her and said that she was very beautiful. Sue replied that she had dressed like this for her family, not for him. The young man sighed and said that he had something for her. He handed her a box tied with a ribbon, and Zai, while untying it, said that he knew that it was not so easy to impress her. Ren said it wasn't something valuable or anything like that in the box because he didn't know what girls liked. But he hopes that he will make her happy with this gift. When Zai saw the stuffed animal inside the box, she told him that she was no longer a little girl. She doesn't like teddy bears. The young man said that he could return it and buy her a new gift. To which she replied, since he gave it to her, it is now hers. Ren thought of the girl's unpredictability. He dared to tell her later that he thought the situation with the twins had made her angry last time. He doesn't know why, but he still wants to apologize to her. The girl asked if that was why he gave her the gift. He said it might not be appropriate for him to say that, but technically he was her fiancé and the situation wasn't under his control. He asked her if she could forgive him. The girl replied that she didn't care who he was close to. Anyway, he hadn't forgotten that he was hers. The words were spoken so softly that Ren couldn't hear them, and he asked her again, what did she say? Z replied that she had just said that he was the most stupid person in the world. She took his hand and told him to follow her because everyone was waiting for them. In the Dragon Palace, indeed, everyone was already waiting for them. All the guests admired the beauty of the princess. Also, everyone paid attention to her fiancé. They asked if he was human. The guests found it beautiful too. Soon the Dragon King and the Prince of the Western Ocean appeared. Ren thought that the fun was just beginning. It was announced that the Dragon King and the hereditary Prince of the Western Ocean had arrived. They brought with them 1,000-year-old purple coral, 10 pieces of Western Ocean ice, and 10 high and warm jade stones. The dragons of the Western Ocean were extremely generous. Zhao Guang said that 10 pieces of the Western Ocean could feed 5 or 6 7th realm masters, to which Miss Zhao remarked, it's because they want to woo the princess of the Eastern Ocean. Zhao Guang thanked Mr. Zane for his generous gifts and expressed his deep appreciation. The Dragon King of the Western Ocean laughed and said that there was no need to talk about it because they would be related soon anyway. Then he saw the princess and told her that she was getting prettier and prettier. He hopes that she will be his daughter-in-law. He asked her what she thought about it. Seeing the confusion on her daughter's face, Miss Zhao turned to Zane Ping and asked him to leave Zai alone. Ren then took the girl's hand and shielded her from the Dragon King with his body. Miss Zhao told Zane that their daughter was already engaged. The king laughed and said that Zai was too good for a human, and his grandson Zhang Yutao reached the 3rd realm a few days ago. He must be the youngest cultivator to reach the 3rd realm. He is the most talented metal element cultivator. Itao bowed politely and told the old man that he was flattered. He still has to keep working hard. He also said that Sudu is a girl. The Eastern Ocean dragon clan needs an heir, but it doesn't think it's right to leave the Eastern Ocean to a human. He walked over to the princess, snatched Ren's gift, a teddy bear, out of her hands and threw it on the floor, asking, "Is this Trash's gift?" The girl replied that it was none of his business and let him return the gift to her immediately. Itao took her hand in his, put a bracelet on her wrist, and told her that magic toys were much better than plush ones, and much more relevant. As he spoke, he put his arm around her waist. Ren grabbed the prince's arm and ordered him to let go of the girl. While Ren held Yutao's hand, Zid pushed the crown prince away, picked up the toy from the floor, and hugged it to her chest, saying that nothing could replace a bear, even mountains of gold. Enraged, Yutao asked Hao Ren. Obviously he wants to play hero. He is happy to present him with a chance to fight him. He told him that if the young man won the fight, he would agree to give up his marriage to Tsu. Ren agreed. Z had told him that Yutao was level 3. If he fought it, he would surely die. The youth reassured her and said that he would be able to protect her and the Eastern Ocean. Yutao said he wouldn't take that responsibility on himself. He can lower his cultivation level to the first one. It would still be enough for him to beat this upstart. The girl told him to stop bragging. He knows that Hao Ren hasn't reached the first level yet. Yutao replied that he was too weak anyway, and that's the best thing he can do for him. They faced each other in the arena. Yutao asked Wu Ren if he dared to attack first. He promised to teach him a lesson. The young man easily dodged the crown prince's first attacks, but then he heard Yutao's taunts. What happened to the big hero? He asked him if that was all he was capable of. Run and hide. As she dodged the enemy's magic attacks, Ren thought that even with his lowered cultivation level, his combat experience was much greater. He's very strong. The young man realized that he was forming spiritual metal energy into swords. His water energy won't be able to handle it. But he's not going to wait for death. Yutao smugly told Ren that his cultivation couldn't compete with his own. Even if he doesn't dream about it, Yutao suggested that he surrender. Ren put the fingers of his 2 hands together and thought about how he should try this. Lightning is a great power. The prince continued to taunt him. He said that a human can't do what a dragon can do. Suddenly, lightning struck the talkative prince. He was at a loss. It's impossible. Spiritual energy can't be that strong. Ren then said to him, how could he forget about the thunder sword energy? Zane Yutao exclaimed that he was talking complete nonsense. But Hao Ren told him that the combination of the purest 5 elements is lightning. Yutao tried to counterattack the man, but Ren used scattering and the prince fell to his knees, coughing. He looked up at the youth and said that he was stronger than he thought. In that case, he would show him his true strength and level. He lifted all the restrictions and charged in. He said that now he would see if his lightning energy could defeat him. Ren saw a firebird appear in front of him. He thought about the fact that the bird was a polymer of the spiritual energy of metal. He must grit his teeth and keep fighting. Ren soon realized that apart from the lightning-fast cultivation technique, nothing could harm Yutao. He easily handles all of his attacks. Then he remembered the instruction of his twins, who had told him about balance and conversion, about the power of the 5 elements. Ren turned to the tree. Zhang Yutao laughed. He called him an idiot and said that metal destroys wood, so he can't hurt him with a ring of green tree branches. Meanwhile, the green ring floated up to the prince's feet and suddenly turned into a fiery barbed wire, entangled him and bound him from head to toe. Ren asked Yutao, didn't he know that? Different types of spiritual energy can transform into each other. As Ren watched his opponent writhe in pain and shame, he thought that he had used up a lot of energy in this fight. Thank God it worked. He had to finish this now, otherwise he would be at a disadvantage again. He rushed towards Zhang Yutao, but Zhang Yutao was already on his feet and told him that he was really good at clever tricks, but it's still pointless in front of real power. Ren saw that his opponent had turned into a dragon. Dragon skin is as hard as armor, and the dragon's claws are as sharp as swords. Yutao grabbed the young man by the throat and told him that dragons were naturally strong. People can't compete with them. He threw him into a corner and ordered him to get out of the dragon palace. But just as he turned his back on Ren, he heard Ren's voice telling him that he hadn't won yet and that he wouldn't give up. The enraged dragon shouted at him that he was already a corpse. It roared horribly and charged at the man. Lightning bolts flew in the direction of the dragon, sticking in a circle on the floor, but not causing much harm to it. Yutao burst out laughing and told him to give up this useless task. He can't hurt him. It dawned on him too late that he was inside a circle of embedded lightning bolts. Ren told Yutao that he didn't give a damn about his dragon power. He only needed to trap him. Zhang Yutao resentfully told Ren that he did it on purpose. He baffled him to finish the sword formation. The young man replied, in order to deal with it, of course, he had to use a few tricks. He had spent so much time learning from Linlin and Lai Lai to prepare this surprise for him. The Dragon Prince asked him what he meant by that. Tzu said that Hao Ren had scared her badly, and he said that he had promised to protect her and that he would protect her. Zhang Ping, the king of the Western Ocean, said that Ren only managed to lure his son into a trap. Therefore, this match can be considered a draw. Zhao Guan contradicted him and said that this guy was challenging someone who surpassed him in cultivation. The fact that he was able to immobilize his opponent is already very impressive. However, Hao Ren told them that it was only a snack. Now he moves on to the main course. Itao exclaimed that he had exhausted his spiritual energy. What else can he do now? The young man replied that he would give him the opportunity to see it. He was finally going to take advantage of it. He stood in front of the dragon and spread out his hands. Itao was struck by Ren's enormous amount of spiritual energy. He asked him where he got so much spiritual energy from. After all, it should have been over by now. Hao Ren held up his hands and said that this was a third realm strike. Itao must feel it. The prince didn't believe these words. He couldn't imagine how it could be. An incredible blow landed on the dragon and it lost consciousness. His father ran to him. Zhao Guang asked Zhang why he was interfering, since it was only a match between two young beings. Pin helped his son up and whispered angrily that they had all lost. Zhao Kuo asked Zhang Ping, does he think it's all over now that he's admitted defeat? Has he forgotten what he promised before? Zhang replied that he was taking back what he had said about the marriage, and they were leaving. After the representatives of the Western Ocean left the palace, Zi threw herself into Ren's arms and asked him why he had put himself in such danger. Then she saw a deep gash on his thigh and ordered the medicine to be brought quickly. Soon the medicine was brought to him, and he swallowed it. Wang shook his head and said that he didn't expect the youth to use the third realm strike. Kuo added that judging from his weakened state, it was possible that he had to use some secret spell to exchange his life force for spiritual energy. Zi exclaimed, what should they do now? She asked Uncle Kuo to save Ren. Hao Ren was very weak and was asked not to move. The twins, who happened to be nearby, said that his injuries look very serious. They said that they were the only ones who could help Ren right now. Lu Lai said that he used a spell above his cultivation level. She asked him, did he want to die? Linlin added that his spiritual energy was completely out of control. He could have broken all his meridians if they came a little later. Su asked how this could have happened. The young man replied that it was nothing. It's just a little trick of his. Lai was indignant. A little trick. He was risking his life. Zai leaned close to Ren's ear and asked, is what she says true? Uncle Kuo came over and asked Ren, did he really use a type of forbidden spell? The young man replied that this was not entirely true. He was able to win because he understood the secret of the light path sword technique. This technique can transmute elements, and element transmutation can be used to attack. Su asked if all the elements were mixed in their primitive state. How was he able to release so much pure elemental energy at once? Kuo understood and laughed and told him that he was very perceptive. Ren smiled and said that Mr. Zhao Kuo was a strong cultivator. The elemental energy is contained in his body in its purest form, so he discreetly borrowed some of it from him. Uncle Kuo hugged the young man and said that it wasn't a big deal. He should thank him for chasing that guy away. At this time, Lei Ru suddenly fell to his knees in front of Ren and said that he should apologize to him. He had always thought that a mere mortal like him was not worthy of Mr. Dai. In order to prevent their wedding, he even gave him a partial version of the spiritual concentration scroll. Hao Ren replied that he shouldn't worry, he still had trouble understanding this cultivation technique. Uncle Kuo became enraged and charged at Ruo with his fists. He shouted at him that he was a vile crook. He will purge the earth of people like him. Kuo hit him hard in the face, knocking him down. Hao Ren gave Lei Ru his hand and said that they were even. Let the past remain in the past. He explained what he had done to others because Ru was doing it for Zidi and the Eastern Ocean. He doesn't hold it against him. He asked for his life to be spared. Kuo agreed with the young man, and he promised to forgive Ru this time. The young man was profuse in his thanks. He said that he would like to serve them for the rest of his life so that he could express his gratitude to the end. Hao Ren had to take a few days off to recuperate from the fight at Zhao Yanzi's birthday party. However, the twins Lu Linlin and Lu Lili bothered him with their tutelage. Lili told him while slicing an apple for him that he should eat well to recover faster. Linlin fed him grapes. This honey care of the twins began to bother Zhenya. When Ren was sitting at the classroom table from doing nothing, Shi Yujia asked him solicitously if the long vacation he took helped him. The young man thanked her for her concern and said that everything was fine. The girl informed him that her brother had issued an order allowing him to participate in next month's basketball game against Juhua University. They are old rivals of their school. She wished him good luck in the match. He replied that he wasn't worried about the match because he had her, his personal trainer. The girl replied that the confidence in his voice reminded her of someone else. Ren asked Yujia who exactly his voice reminded him of. She replied that there was a nice boy she knew as a child. He asked her if they were close. Yujia replied that she just enjoyed watching him. He was always gentle with her. At that time, she was small, thin, and still quite stupid, but he never complained about it. Ren asked her if she had feelings for him. She replied that they had long since lost contact with him. Thanks to his influence, she is now studying and training so hard. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. The twins were the first to rush into the apartment like the wind. They yelled wildly and said that his parents were back. Then he saw his father and mother enter the room and tell him in person that they were back. Ren said he understood. He immediately returns to his room. His father asked him why he shouldn't stay for a while. It had been so long since they'd seen each other. He turned around and asked his parents what they were planning to do this time. How many days will they be here? They told him that they wanted to stay for a long time. They planned to spend more time with him and his grandmother. My father added that it was all thanks to Mr. Xi, who helped transfer them back to the city. Ren asked which Mr. Xi they were talking about. His mother wondered if he didn't remember him. He used to come to their house a lot when he was little. He also had a daughter his own age, who followed him everywhere. The father added to the story and said that they jokingly promised that they would get married with this girl. Ren said thoughtfully that he seemed to remember that her name was Radish. In Hao Ren's class, the twins were insistent on offering him a massage because he was so tired from his classes that he absolutely needed it. He asked them what they were doing here now. Lively replied that they were now Mr. Lu Qin's granddaughters. So of course they should go to classes. All the classmates were whispering that they couldn't believe that Hao Ren forced two beautiful girls to serve him in class. They'd also said that these girls are Mr. Lu's granddaughters, and Ren already has another girl by his side and she's gorgeous, that's Yujia. At this time, Yujia entered the classroom and saw the twins who were sticking to Hao Ren and wouldn't leave him for a minute. She turned to them and told them it was an office. If they are not students or teachers, they must leave. The girls replied that they were students. They showed her their student ID cards. Yujia objected and said that they were studying in a different department. Lai Lei said it was very strange. According to the rules, students can't be in the classroom of another faculty. The girl replied that there are no such rules, but they interfere with students. However, the twins replied that it was more like they were interfering with her. Yujia was indignant and said that she did not intend to listen to their idle talk. Let them not think that they were allowed to do whatever they wanted just because they were Mr. Lu's granddaughters. Lai Lai speculated why she was so angry. Was it because she also had feelings for Ren? The boy couldn't continue listening to this one and wished the twins would leave the classroom. When they left, he said it was already class time. He invites Yujia to talk afterward. Ren thought about apologizing to Yujia first and then explaining his relationship with the twins. After class, he met with the girl and asked her to speak first. She said she thought they should keep their distance. Ren said it was his fault for not stopping the twins in time, and he apologizes for that, but Yujia interrupted him and said that wasn't the point. Recently, there are rumors among classmates that they are dating him. The boy said they were just friends. The girl continued and said that she didn't care about the rumors, but it wasn't fair to him. And when she was talking about her brother, she suddenly realized that it would be unpleasant for her if he was too close to other girls. So she can't let him down anymore. Ren asked her, So she's doing everything for a childhood friend. She replied that she would always be his radish. On the day of the basketball game, during practice, Hao Ren's thoughts were far from this game. He turned his attention to the stands where he saw his parents and grandmother. He thought with indifference, what are they doing here? He could see that Yujia hadn't come to practice yet. He thought about the incredible thing that had happened. Yujia is a radish, and he's actually her brother. He remembered her saying that she had promised to be his wife when she grew up. He thought about how he couldn't bring himself to say that he was her brother. It will look as if he is using it. He can't do that. He remembered her saying that they should keep some distance from each other. He could feel sweat forming in his eyes, or was it tears? Linlin handed him a handkerchief and told him to use it. The young man asked her why she was here. Linlin replied that it was his match. Of course, they're here to watch and play basketball. It's their fault for what happened, but they'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Ren replied that it was also his fault because he hadn't trained them properly. He suggested that we leave everything in the past, but make sure that it never happens again. Linlin threw her arms around him and said that she would be nice because she thought that he wouldn't want to see them again. At that moment, Zai Yi came into the hall, looking at Ren, and said that he was a real womanizer. Ren asked her why she was here too. The girl replied that Mrs. Su had invited her. Isn't she supposed to be here? Suhan appeared from behind Z and said that this was his first basketball game, and she wanted to see how he would play. Z said that she only came here for him. If he dares to lose, he knows what will happen. Then she asked, why isn't Yujia here today? Just as she asked this question, a breathless Yujia ran into the hall and apologized for being late. At this time, Hao Ren's father was trying to see the girls from the podium. He said he'd seen one of them somewhere before. His wife asked him, isn't that the girl who sat next to Hao Ren during their previous lecture? The husband thought about it and said that it was somewhere before this incident. He came down from the podium and approached the girl. He asked if it was true that her name was Kai Yujia. The girl recognized Mr. Hao, and she asked in surprise, what brought them here? And how did he know her name? He took off his glasses and laughed. Didn't she remember him? As a child, he was her neighbor. Yujia asked in surprise, so he's his brother's father. Then Z came up to them and asked Mr. Hao if he knew Yujia. He replied that he used to work with her father and they lived in neighboring houses. Hao Ren often played with Yujia when they were little. Speaking of which, they even considered an arranged marriage between them. Yujia felt uneasy. She couldn't believe that she had said all those things in front of Hao Ren. Ren defended himself and said that he only found out that day. Yujia asked him to forget about what she had said earlier. Mr. Hao remarked that Ren really has good taste after all. He already has such a beautiful girl at such a young age. Yujia recalled how they had promised to marry each other at a young age. Did Hao Ren still remember those things? Z asked him. He must be very happy that Yujia is his fiancée. He replied that it was just nonsense that he said when they were kids. Z said softly that the fact that they had known each other since childhood was even more annoying. Yujia looked at Z and thought that she liked Hao Ren very much. It was announced over the loudspeaker that the basketball game was about to start. Everyone wished Ren good luck, and Yujia said that she and Z would be rooting for him. Z mumbled that she hadn't agreed to do it yet. The basketball match between Jinghua University and Eastern Ocean University has started. Eastern Ocean University got off to a very bad start. From the very beginning, the Jinghua University team was outscored by 10 points. Despite the fierce attacks of the Eastern Ocean University team leader Suji Chuan, the gap in the score didn't decrease. The fans said, meaning the opposing team, that they were so tough. No wonder the Jinghua University basketball team is known for its impeccable defense. They don't pay attention to their every move. Hao Ren opened up well under the opponent's ring several times, but the team leader didn't give him the ball every time. Shi Wanjun was obviously fed up and asked for a timeout. He told the team that they were only at the beginning of the period. They can't afford to get even more points. They must come up with a solution that breaks the match code. Xu Jixuan said that he is a professional on the basketball team of Eastern Ocean Universities, and he can't let such things continue. Hao Ren took him by the t-shirt and told him that he was here to avoid fighting him for everyone's attention. He's here to win the match. The leader asked him what he meant by that. Does he think he doesn't want to win? The young man replied that now, when they are behind in the score, they should work together, gather the whole team to win. The coach urged them to forget about their differences and get back into the game. He told them that they were both talented players that he had chosen and hoped for. He asked them not to let him down. The timeout was over, and Ren heard Yuji's voice shouting that she believed in him and that he could lead the team to victory. Suzu urged him to take tougher action. Su-han asked her in surprise, "What was that just now?" She'd never been so worried about a guy before. The princess screamed that it wasn't like that at all. She just didn't want him to lose and disgrace the university. And Eastern Ocean University's reputation is closely tied to her father's. And if he embarrassed her father, then she would also be in a predicament. Su-han agreed with her and said that they should believe in Hao-ren. He wouldn't let them down. The team of the Eastern Ocean played much more interesting after the timeout. Team leader Xuan Xuji stopped being greedy and started giving passes to Hao-ren. One of these passes ended with his magnificent spectacular throw to the basket from above, which surprised everyone in the gym with its technique. The match between the two university teams continued. Hao-ren received a great pass from Suji Xuan and shot the ball into the basket in a beautiful style from above. Despite the successful attack, the star of the basketball team, Suji Xuan, continued to ignore Hao-ren. He told him after the scoring attack he just made not to put on such a smug face. He works with him only for the sake of winning the whole team, and no more. Ren enthusiastically replied that of course they should win. The second period of the Eastern Ocean University team, thanks to the efforts of the coach and team leaders, was simply brilliant. The score not only leveled up, but also became in favor of the University of the Eastern Ocean. The teams went to the break when the score was 31-36, not in favor of Tsinghua University. Hao-ren, wiping the sweat off his face with a towel and taking a sip of the water bottle, thought that there was still half the match left, and everything will depend on the well-coordinated game of all the players of the team. Fans of the Eastern Ocean University basketball team cheered in the stands. They were happy about the successful second period and expressed hope for the same brilliant performance of the team in the second half of the meeting. Ren noticed on the podium the Liu family's twins, Liu Linlin and Liu Lai, who were wearing the team's support group uniform and promised a special surprise at the end of the game that they had prepared especially for him. Su-han, the teacher and inspector, folded her arms and thought that Hao-ren might have to work even harder right now. The referee's whistle blew, and the teams entered the court to continue the match. The second half of the meeting has begun. The Tsinghua University team wasn't just going to give away the victory either. They played brilliantly in the first 3 quarters, and the Eastern Ocean University team had a tough time. However, Eastern Ocean University finally equalized the score early in the 4th period with the team leader's efforts. In the stands, Liu Linlin told her sister that she was confident that the support group would work. Liu Lai contradicted her and said that they were only equalizing the score. This will only count if they actually win. It's too early to celebrate. The Tsinghua University team is too skilled and experienced to just give away the victory. Indeed, the Eastern Ocean University basketball team was soon 2 points behind the Tsinghua University team, 56-54. The players of the Tsinghua University team were also determined to win, as were the students of East Ocean University. And so far, the victory really belonged to them. The game was in full swing. The attacks of the teams followed one after another, accurate shots alternated with competent defense. The jubilation of the fans of one team was replaced by the joy of the other as the score on the scoreboard changed. 42 seconds before the end of the match, the East Ocean University team only won by 1 point against the Tsinghua University team. The team leader of Tsinghua University acknowledged with great respect that the East Ocean University basketball team was indeed a worthy opponent. But he was still confident of his team's ultimate victory. The players of the Eastern Ocean University team couldn't agree with him. They believed that the victory would be for them. When the score on the scoreboard was 68-67 in favor of Tsinghua, only 20 seconds remained until the end of the match. Hao-ren thought about the fact that there was only one chance left for their team to win. The last minute of the meeting has passed. The tension had reached its limit. The difference of only 1 point allowed any of the teams to achieve the desired victory with a successful combination of circumstances. Just one accurate throw could decide the outcome of the entire match. Xu Jichuan took the ball away from his opponent in a technical manner, looked at Hao Ren, and gave him a long pass across the court, shouting that it would be better for him not to miss the ball in the last minute. Ren scooped up the ball and dribbled toward the center of the court, running into the back of the Tsinghua University team's blind defense. He glanced at the scoreboard and realized that game time was almost up. Fiercely defended opponents did not give him any opportunity to pass the ball to his partner. What was he supposed to do? Xu Jichuan suddenly supported Ren and shouted that he should not doubt himself and act on his own discretion. All the fans of East Ocean University held their breath. There was a lone cry from one of the twins in the hall, who loudly encouraged Hao Ren, no doubt adding to his confidence. Hao Ren, emboldened by the team leader's words and the support of the fans, jumped high and threw the ball into the ring technically. Time seemed to have stopped. The whole hall watched the trajectory of the flying ball with fascination, players, fans, coaches, and referees. At the same time as the siren sounded, which meant the end of a tense match, the ball flew into the basket. Hao Ren made an incredible throw. The Eastern Ocean University basketball team won the match. There was no limit to the cheering of the stands. The players were hugging each other, and the support group couldn't contain their excitement and cheered. Their efforts throughout the difficult match undoubtedly affected the morale of the East Ocean University team's players and the overall result of the match. The players of the Eastern Ocean University team began to rock the hero of this match, Hao Ren, in their arms. When the victory celebration came to an end, Hao Ren's phone received a message from the coach of the Eastern Ocean University team, Shi Wanjin. He invited the young man to come to his home to visit. At the end of the message, he gave the address, 3F, Building 2, Number 35, Jinghai District. Hao Ren walked down the evening street of his hometown and couldn't believe that Mr. Xie had invited him to his home for dinner. He found the right door and knocked on it. Shi Yujia opened the door. She was very surprised to see Hao Ren standing on the doorstep of her apartment. She asked him what brought him here. Her brother Xi Wanjin came out of the room and informed her that the young man was his guest. The coach invited him in. The girl resentfully asked her brother, why didn't he tell her that Hao Ren should come? She would have bought at least some groceries for it. Ren said that he was very grateful for the care, but there was no need to prepare anything specially for him. While wearing a special cooking robe, Shi Wanjin told Xi Yujia that the Eastern Ocean University team won the match today, only thanks to Hao Zhen's efforts. Therefore, he will prepare a meal especially for him personally. He suggested that the young people go and rest in the room for a while, because the living room will be filled with the smell of cooking food. Yujia tried to protest, but she told her brother that this was her room, and how could Wanjun manage it? However, the coach had already pushed open the door, and Hao Ren looked in curiously. The lady of the room also entered. The door slammed softly, and there was silence. Yujia's bedroom looked gorgeous. Large bed, nice furniture, computer, soft toys. Shi Yujia noticed with horror that she had left her underwear on the bed. She picked up the bra and tucked it behind her back. She invited Hao Ren to sit down while she went to get drinks. She put her hand on his shoulder and apologized for the slight mess in her room. Hao Ren happily sat down at a comfortable table where he saw a small photographic album. When he opened it absently, he found many photos of him and Yujia inside. When the girl entered the room, carrying water in his hands, he asked her what the pictures were. She carefully placed the glass of water on the table and replied, "Doesn't he remember that?" He then pulverized the shells and made crayons out of them for her. Had he forgotten that? Ren thought that she would be very upset if he said that he didn't remember any of this. While he was pondering over the answer, the girl said that it wouldn't be surprising if he forgot. After all, many years have passed. Hao Ren apologized and said that he was very embarrassed in front of her. Yujia asked him not to apologize for this because it wasn't his fault. He apologized once more and told her that he only remembered a little girl named Radish who followed him wherever he went. Most of the rest he doesn't remember. The girl said that they have a lot of good memories with him. Then she laughed merrily and added that he hadn't changed a bit in all that time. He's still as gentle and honest as he was before. Ren contradicted her and said that he did not agree with her. She just looks at him through her rose-tinted childhood glasses because he's her brother. She, in turn, strongly disagreed with him. She noticed that even if he wasn't her brother, she wouldn't care. Then she broke off in mid-sentence and said that it was time for dinner and the food was ready. It's time to go to the living room. As they sat down at the richly served table, the young man couldn't stop thinking about what exactly did Sky Yuji want to say. Even if he wasn't her brother? Then what? Hao Ren expressed his heartfelt gratitude and admiration for Mr. Xi's excellent dinner. With incredible taste and unsurpassed cooking skills, Mr. Xi has shown that his talents are not limited to just one area. Hao Ren was surprised at how delicious and colorful each dish was prepared, and he noted that it was one of the most delicious dinners he had ever tasted. After finishing the meal, Hao Ren turned to Mr. Xi with an expression of surprise. He told him that, in fact, no one present could have guessed that he possessed such skill in the art of cooking. With such skills, he could certainly set up his own gastronomic establishment and delight a lot of people with his dishes. Mr. Xi smiled modestly and thanked Hao Ren for the compliments. He said that cooking has always been his passion, and he is glad that he was able to give a pleasant experience to his friend. Shi Wanjin replied with a smile that it would be better for him to learn how to cook as well if he wanted to be together with Yujia. The girl reproached her brother for these words, not understanding why he was saying this. The coach replied that she knew exactly why he was saying that. Ren is her brother, with whom she has been in love all these years. The girl blushed and took Hao Ren's hand, suggesting that he go for a walk and not listen to this nonsense that her brother was talking about. They were walking along the street, which was gradually sinking into the evening twilight, and the girl thanked Thenia. He didn't quite understand her, and she said that she had been waiting for her brother all these years. She was looking forward to their next meeting. However, she didn't think that he would turn out to be her brother, but she is very happy now. Then she asked him to listen to one of her secrets. She approached him and whispered in his ear that she might have been able to love someone else if he hadn't shown up in time. Sohan declared the lesson over and ordered Hao Zhen to accompany her. All the classmates looked at him enviously. Why is this beautiful woman inviting this lucky Hao Ren over again? Was he the only one in the entire class who deserved such grace? Although the young man had no desire to go anywhere with Su-Han, he soon found himself in a cluttered room. Empty bottles and cans, as well as bags of garbage, were scattered around the sofa and table. Women's clothes were scattered in a mess on the sofa. He asked the inspector where they were now. Su-Han calmly replied that they were in her house. Hao Ren asked Miss Su why the electric light was turned off in the apartment. The girl replied that the electricity was suddenly cut off throughout the house, so she asked him to come. Still, he specializes in mechanical engineering. Let him consider this occasion as an opportunity to practice. Hao Ren, using his phone as a flashlight, went to look at the electrical panel. He said, after looking at the equipment, that apparently Miss Su didn't understand much about electricity. To turn on the light, it was enough just to change the position of the switch in the panel. The woman replied that she teaches mathematics, not physics. What's the big deal that she doesn't know enough about it? She threatened him that she could give him a beat for this. Hao Ren apologized for being rude and asked Miss Su to forgive him for being tactless. When Hao Ren sat down on the sofa, he felt that in the house of a single woman, Miss Su, his heart began to beat faster and his nerves became tense. Even though it wasn't his first time being in Miss Su's company, this strange feeling surprised him. Perhaps it was due to her attractiveness, which he couldn't help but notice. Her soft voice and trim figure could have a strong effect on him. Perhaps he was worried that he might say or do something wrong in front of her. The sudden appearance of nervousness could also be a result of her mental influence on him. In the end, Hao Ren decided to try to relax. He decided that the best way to overcome his nervousness was to be natural and sincere. After all, it is important to always remain yourself. The teacher returned dressed in a light house dress that emphasized all her charms. She offered him a choice of tea or coffee. He chose coffee, wondering when she'd changed. They sat on the couch and drank coffee in silence. Then Hao Ren noticed that Miss Su looked completely different in private. Su-Han replied, "It's because she's in harmony with him right now, and they know each other's secrets well." Suddenly, the woman screamed wildly, noticing a large cockroach near her coffee cup. With great difficulty, the young man calmed the woman down. He offered to help her clean up the apartment. After a while, he wiped the sweat off the pole with satisfaction and told her that her apartment was now clean. He advised her to clean the house more often so that there were no cockroaches. The teacher thanked him profusely for today. Hao Ren told her that he would never have thought that the outstanding cultivator Miss Su was so bad at living independently. Suddenly, a glowing golden sword appeared in the woman's hands. She made a quick lunge and lunged at him. With great difficulty, the young man dodged her deft blows. And when it seemed that things were very bad for him, Su-han lowered her weapon. She told him that he was making good progress. Now that he could use his spiritual energy to form a barrier, the first realm was only one step away. He said resentfully to the inspector, so she was just testing him for basic cultivation skills. The girl folded her arms and invited him to fight him. Hao Ren tried to refuse, claiming that he was no match for her. Su-han told him that she would only defend herself. He has 3 minutes, and as soon as he can touch it with the energy of his ball, it will mean that he has won. The young man smiled smugly. Just touch the energy of your sword. He noticed that Miss Su was obviously looking down on him. The girl reminded him that she was an inspector, and she would give him a special reward if he could defeat her. Seeing the interest in the young man's eyes, she urged him to show all his abilities. They started the fight. Su-han was surprised at the beginning of the fight at how much spiritual energy was coming from Ren, but she warned him that in such fights, the strength of the punch was also important, not just the amount of it. Normal attacks from the 5 elements won't be able to harm her. Hao Ren thought that if this was really the case, perhaps combining the 5 elements would work. He asked the girl again, so the attacks of the 5 elements won't be able to harm her, but what about the lightning element? He cupped his palms together and launched a lightning bolt at her. Su-han praised him for having a good idea about the lightning element. However, this element consists of 5 elements, so this won't work either. She reminded him that he only had 1 minute left. Could it be that he wants to give up? Hao Ren frantically reasoned, if neither his 5-element attacks nor the lightning element attacks could destroy Miss Su's defense, how could he deal with the spiritual energy? After all, he hadn't even reached the first realm yet. Wouldn't it be nice for his energy to reach her? The inspector said that she had already determined the level of his control. She told him that it wouldn't be a big deal even if he lost now. Suddenly, the water vapor that appeared in front of the girl did not allow her to see the opponent. Hao Ren suddenly appeared from a direction she hadn't expected him to come from. It all happened suddenly. He won. She was at a loss to tell him that he had mastered such serious martial skills, even though he hadn't even reached the first realm yet. Not bad. The alarmed youth noticed that in the course of the fierce fight, he had inadvertently damaged Miss Su's elegant house dress. Excitement surged through him, and he felt extremely uncomfortable about the incident. However, in an effort to restore justice, he firmly stated that he would definitely purchase a new, equally beautiful dress for Miss Su to replace the damaged one. Su-han was quite moved by his willingness and kindness, but on her part, she politely and persistently declined the offer. A genuine smile flashed in her eyes, and she politely thanked the youth for his kindness. Then, with a magnanimous look in her eyes, she went into the next room and left him to his own devices. Suddenly, the lights went out again in the apartment. The girl returned to the room, went to the window, and said that he was coming. Ren asked the girl who she was referring to. Su-han replied that he had used a large amount of spiritual energy during the battle, thus activating the dragon core. He is now on the verge of breaking through to the first realm. A small Kang-level heavenly calamity was about to happen, and she would protect him, but he would need to open the dragon's lair. Su-han, still looking out the window and listening to the distant but approaching rumble, told Hao Zhen that the dragon's lair was a point in the dragon core. Starting from the Kang stage, each stage will open a point. The more points, the more spiritual energy the dragon core can absorb. She told him that he would only be able to become a dragon after opening 7 points. Hao Ren asked Miss Su with interest about how he could open the point in the dragon core. Miss Su, who was an inspector and had knowledge of ancient techniques and mystical practices, listened carefully to his question. Listening to Hao Ren, She confirmed that he understood correctly. Indeed, the Light Path Sword Scroll describes the fusion of the 5 elements to refine the sword. One of the steps in this process is directing the lightning bolt inside your body. Lightning, as a symbol of the metal element and energy, can be used to strengthen and enrich the spiritual power within a person. Suddenly, there was a crash outside the window, and then lightning struck somewhere not far from the house. This sound and apparition suddenly emphasized the conversation about lightning and the elements, making it seem as if the ancient powers had come closer to where they were. Miss Su went on to explain that directing lightning inward requires deep concentration and control of the energy. This is not only a physical process, but also a spiritual one that requires harmony and inner balance. Hao Ren listened carefully, realizing that this was not only a technique, but also a philosophy. At this moment, he felt that he was about to embark on a journey not only in the world of magic skills, but also in himself. So Han guessed. He said to Siu Han, "So this is a heavenly calamity. So he needs to pierce his body with lightning." The girl confirmed his guess and said that she would guard him. She suggested that we start cultivating it right now. The young man assumed the lotus position. The spine corresponds to 24 Sai, the lungs are 12 Chonglu, the small intestine corresponds to 18 I, Heart Chonggun, Soul Ho Gai, tongue, Ho Chi, legs, and Cheng. Suddenly, Siu Han heard an incredible rumble. He felt lightning entering his body. He felt like his body was about to explode. Then he felt himself floating in a strange space. Where is he? Then he realized that this was the dragon core. He was inside his body. Lightning and light lit up everything. Hao Ren tried to pull himself together and thought that he should just take control of the situation. He needs to tame the lightning. Through an incredible crack and roar, it charged towards the center of the core. A hellish rumble and crash followed him along the way. Lightning bolts large and small pierced through his body, causing him pain. Finally, he woke up in Su Han's room. She asked him sympathetically if he had succeeded. She touched his shoulder, and there was a crackling sound that signaled an electric shock. A terrible roar rang out in the room, and lightning, breaking away from the body of the young man, flew out of the window, shattering the window glass. Hao Ren managed to push the girl to the floor, thus protecting her from injury. She thanked him and said that she was, after all, an inspector. She congratulated him on breaking into Can. She also noted that he had defeated her earlier. As she had promised, there was a special reward waiting for him now. Hao Ren told her that he was her disciple and it was awkward to accept gifts for him. Su Han looked at him seriously and said that from now on, he would be her assistant. Each inspector can assign an assistant. She said that she had never met a suitable candidate in her life, so this post was always free. The assistant inspector is technically a freelance assistant and doesn't need to be worshipped in the Dragon Temple. Inspectors can choose their own assistants, and she chose him. The young man asked her why it was his. Su Han told Hao Ren that she couldn't see the joy in his eyes. If he didn't like something, then he might not be her assistant. But Ren replied that he liked it very much. Then the inspector asked him to sign the contract. The twins Lu Linlin and Lu Lai Lai, holding hands with Hao Ren from both sides, questioned him, why did he become an assistant inspector? At first, he didn't understand how they knew about this. Then he remembered the inspector's mark on his forehead. He also remembered the contract that had flown into his body. Cool. Lu Linlin used to scare him that the assistant inspector had to pass the exam every year. And if he fails it, he will surely die from it. The young man asked her if he could refuse, to which the girl replied that he could not do this anymore. Once he has become an assistant inspector, he is required to pass the exam until he becomes a full-fledged inspector. Only then can he leave. Otherwise, he will be killed on the spot as soon as he leaves his post for no reason. Hao Ren thought with sadness that he had known before that free cheese only came in a mousetrap. Hao Ren's heart was filled with the words of wisdom that he had learned after learning from his own experience that truly valuable things and achievements require some effort and effort. He realized that even seemingly easy opportunities can have their pitfalls, and the truth lies beyond the surface. This wise thought became a guide for him, according to which he was guided in his actions. He asked the twins what his chances of success were. What is the assistant inspector exam, and when does the first exam start? Regarding the assistant inspector exam, Hao Ren was aware of its significance and complexity. This exam was not just a formal test of knowledge, but a real test of the ability to make informed decisions and apply theoretical knowledge in practice. Each task offered in the exam required a deep understanding of the situation, analysis of many factors, and the ability to offer the best way out of difficult situations. The first exam was like opening the door to a new chapter for candidates. It was a time when all participants could demonstrate their efforts, training, and competence. The start date of the exam was very important, as it symbolized the beginning of this important phase in their professional life. Lu Lai-Lang replied that a randomly selected inspector would be in charge of the exam, and he would decide on its essence and timing. Lu Linglin added that the exam could be anything; they'd like to catch people off guard. After all, Jen had only recently reached the Kang level. The young man's mood visibly dropped after this conversation. A fancy red car pulled up outside the university, and a man who all the students recognized as Qin Shouyang, a famous artist, got out. They cheered happily, and the fans blew kisses. Everyone was surprised that he came to Eastern Ocean University. Hao Ren looked at the artist from the audience window and thought, why is this person so popular? And who is he? Su Han, who happened to be nearby, said that Qin Shouyang is the #1 artist in Asia with many fans around the world. She added later that this is his personality in the human world. In fact, he is a dragon bloodline inspector in charge of the Heavenly Mountain and its surroundings. He is a rare genius in cultivation and also the main examiner in the exam that he, Hao Ren, will be taking soon. The youth anxiously asked her, so he had come to their university to check on him. Su Han sighed and said that wasn't quite true. Mostly he's here because he's trying to take care of her. She warned Zhenya to be careful with him. He'd done away with all the men who'd been intimate with her. His exam will not be easy. Hao Ren told the girl that it sounded very scary. The artist and dragon Qin Shouyang must love her very much. The teacher replied that he invited her to his exhibition, which will be held in 2 days, and gave her 2 tickets. She invited Hao Ren, a well-known advocate of girls, to accompany her. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside the classroom window where Su Han and Hao Ren were sitting. It turned out that an advertisement appeared on the facade of the university informing that the best artist in Asia, Qin Shouyang, is going to hold an exhibition at the University of the Eastern Ocean. A huge crowd of teachers and students gathered in the courtyard of the university. They were vividly discussing the upcoming events because the artist Qin Shouyang was as talented as he was beautiful. His paintings were hung in the halls of the university, and when Hao Ren got to know them, he had to admit that they were really amazing. Su Han, who accompanied him, said that Qin Shouyang is one of the best artists in the world, and he is best known for his oil paintings. Not so long ago, his painting was sold at auction for more than 1 million. Hao Ren was shocked by the amount. He also noticed that the artist has a lot of experience in ink and gouache paintings. Su Han informed the young man that this was the first time that the exhibition would show his ink works, so it attracted the attention of art circles. Suddenly, someone called her name. It was the artist and dragon Qin Shouyang, accompanied by 2 beautiful girls. He said that he was sure that Su Han would come to the exhibition, although she does not show him any kind words, but in fact she likes him. Then he asked her which painting she liked best. He intends to give it to her. The teacher replied that it is on display only at the request of the university. Qin Shouyang held her hand and asked her not to be so cold to him. Qin Shouyang, the exhibition organizer and artist, was visibly attracted to Su Han. His passion for art was combined with feelings that he couldn't hide. He organized this exhibition to show how his work has evolved over the past 2 years. Hao Ren could see that Su Han was uncomfortable with Qin Shouyang's proximity and unwanted attention. Her attempts to free her hand were a sign of displeasure, but the artist was persistent. Hao Ren told him to immediately let go of Su Han's hand. Can't he see that Miss Su doesn't like it? Qin Shouyang looked at him and asked if he was Hao Ren from Su Han's class. The artist advised him not to pry into his business. Then he apologized to the girl and told her that he was too happy to see her here and couldn't contain his emotions. Then he pleaded business and left them. Su-han, after the artist left, told the young man that he seemed to be in a lot of trouble. Ren replied that her face was so displeased and angry that he couldn't stand it. The girl continued and said that Qin Shoang was a narcissist. He won't leave it alone now. He doesn't condone such antics. But she said she was glad he'd done it. Hao Ren impressed her again. At this time, the host of the artist's exhibition, Qin Shoang, greeted everyone who came to this wonderful exhibition. Today, they were lucky to be able to see Mr. Qin's ink paintings for the first time. Master Qin mainly worked on oil paintings. This exhibition will foreshadow the official development of Chinese national painting with the help of Mr. Qin. Suddenly, the young man noticed Zhao Yanzi at the exhibition. He asked her what she was doing here. Zi replied that she didn't want to come here, but her father couldn't attend, so she had to come here instead. Just at this time, the host of the exhibition made an announcement. At the request of many admirers of the artist's talent, Mr. Qin will now create a painting right in front of the public to show his enthusiasm for ink paintings. The master took the brush in his hand, his movements confident and perfectly coordinated. Each brush stroke brought the canvas to life, as if bringing it to life. Art lovers enthusiastically watched his work, fascinated by the process of creating a unique picture. Suddenly, a high-pitched scream rang out from the crowd, drawing everyone's attention. A voice exclaimed that he was willing to pay for this masterful work of Master Qin's as much as 800,000. The suggestion pierced the air, causing surprise and annoyance in equal measure. The price offered by this person was incredibly high and clearly beyond expectations. In the hall where this unique event was held, the excitement and conversations had not yet subsided, as someone else decided to throw their bet. This man offered even more, 150,000. This caused confusion and a storm of emotions among the audience. Such a reaction was expected, given Master Qin's skill and reputation. However, the drama wasn't over. Another person decided to enter the game, raising the bet to 300,000. It was obvious that Master Qin's artwork was generating a huge amount of interest, and the dispute between potential buyers was becoming more and more exciting. However, after Qin Shoang finished the painting, he brought it to Su-han and said that this painting was for her. The girl accepted the painting and immediately tore it into small pieces. The audience gasped. They couldn't believe what this girl had done. Maybe she doesn't understand how much this painting is worth. Everyone wondered why she tore it up. After all, this was Qin Shoang's first ink painting. The girl shrugged and said it was just a painting, nothing more. She can give them a different picture as compensation. Then fans started asking the artist to draw something for them. However, the best artist in Asia and part-time dragon for a while lost the power of speech. Miss Su asked Hao Ren to draw something as compensation for Qin Shoang's torn drawing. The young man expressed his fear that Miss Su wanted to be killed. After all, he can't even draw a chicken pecking at rice. While the stage at the exhibition was filled with excitement and anticipation, the visitors showed active interest in the girl's promise to present them with another painting as compensation for the destroyed masterpiece of Master Qin Shoang. They continued to admire the works of famous artist Qin Shoang displayed on the walls of the university and doubted that anyone would be able to create a work of art that could match his skill. However, at this moment, the girl, who was subjected to public pressure and expectations, was faced with a difficult choice. She had to show the promised picture, despite the doubts of the public. Hao Ren was shocked. In fact, the amateur's fear of performing on stage was quite natural. His lack of talent in the field of artistic creation made it impossible for him to properly demonstrate artistic abilities that could even compete with Qin Shoang's professionalism, and it was difficult for him to overcome his own doubts and fears. But in the end, no matter how difficult it was, he had to support the girl's decision to give the public a different picture. Meanwhile, visitors to the exhibition demanded that the girl show her painting. They didn't believe that anyone could draw something that could compare to the paintings of the famous artist Qin Shoang. Is an amateur going to paint on stage? Qin Shoang, who had been watching the audience's emotional reaction to what was happening with great attention, suddenly spread out his hands in a sign of calm. His voice was calm and confident, telling the audience not to worry. With a bright smile, he explained that the piece of art that had just been presented was just a painting. It was all a play of light and color on the canvas, and there was nothing special about it. He stressed that the picture is able to give joy, inspiration, and reflection, and its effect should not upset or frighten. Moreover, the lost picture should not be the subject of strife and confrontation. Qin Shouyang, still smiling, turned his gaze to Hao Ren, realizing that he could now take a little revenge on this youth for his humiliation. With a slight hint of mockery, he asked Hao Ren to demonstrate his artistic ability. Qin Shouyang expressed his interest and desire to see how well Hao Ren was doing in drawing. It was an invitation to show off your talent and share it with the public. Ren whispered to Su-han that he didn't stand a chance. Perhaps he will draw a chicken pecking at rice. The girl calmed him down and told him to relax. She told him to do what she told him to do on stage. He can definitely do it. She told him to just use the elements that she would name, metal, wood, and fire, as well as the use forced from 1 to 10. Su-han advised him to use the exact amount of powder according to the number she gave him. Hao Ren asked Miss Su, does she want him to draw with the dividing light sword shadow scroll? Su-han, noticing the nervousness and worry in Hao Ren's expression, approached him with a slight smile and earnestly told him to calm down and focus. She knew that the importance of the moment could cause tension and doubt. With a burning desire to help him, she advised Hao Ren to try to think back to the picture he had just seen. She suggested that he visualize the moment, restore the image created by the artist before his eyes. Let him feel not only the image of that painting written by Qin Shouyang, but also the artist's gestures, the movements of his hand, and the manner in which he applied strokes to the canvas. Su-han clarified that focusing on details can help Hao Ren recreate the atmosphere of creativity. She advised him to carefully relive every moment of observing the process of creating a picture in order to feel the real essence of what was conveyed on the canvas. Her words were filled with support and understanding, allowing Hao Ren to relax and focus. The young man replied that he remembered everything well. Su-han advised him to listen to her orders. The first was metal. Ren made a rotating motion with his brush across the canvas, then he waved it. Many who watched his actions noticed a lot of power and grace in the strokes. Su-han said, water, 5, tree, 4. Hao Ren gradually began to understand that he needed to constantly transform one type of his 5 elements, spiritual energy, into another and channel it into the brush to draw. The youth felt tired. He didn't think it would cost him so much effort. He leaned on the table and told Su that his strength was failing and he wouldn't last any longer. Then she offered to help him. She helped him hold the brush and said, water, 7. Then she said loudly, as she took the brush, that she thanked the young man for his hard work. Su-han immediately asked the best artist in Asia to comment on the painting that a student from Eastern Ocean University had just painted. When Qin Shouyang picked up the painting, he immediately realized that Ren had accurately used the light-dividing sword shadow scroll to replicate his painting and make up for the gap between their skill levels. He also noticed that Su-han had shared her spiritual energy with him. At this moment, Master Qin Shouyang was approached by a sophisticated art connoisseur who was attracted by the fascinating painting. He looked over the artist's shoulder with interest, completely immersed in the atmosphere of the work of art. With a slight smile on his face, he couldn't help but share his impressions. Exuding delight, the art connoisseur expressed to Qin Shouyang how amazing he thought this painting was. His voice was full of inspiration, and you could feel it in every word. He stressed that the work causes him sincere delight and an inherent attachment to it. The connoisseur acknowledged that brushwork can still have elements of uncertainty, but he found it something charming. His eyes penetrated the depths of the canvas, seeing in each paint and stroke a special vibrating magic. He pointed out that something deeper and more interesting is hidden behind the apparent unreliability. He expressed the idea that in addition to skill, an important component is the overall atmosphere and mood that the young university student was able to convey in an incomprehensible way in this picture. Comparing this painting with the one that Mr. Qin had just created, the connoisseur emphasized that it was not inferior in quality and impressionability. He gave great value to art by harmoniously combining 2 different works, both inspiring in their uniqueness. He asked Qin Shouyang if he agreed with him. The artist was forced to agree with the expert and say that the student Hao Ren's work was even better than his own. Visitors to the exhibition of artist Qin Shoang couldn't believe that an ordinary student had drawn a picture better than the master himself. Everyone was wondering who exactly is Hao Ren. Suhan handed the drawing to its author. Offended artist Qin Shoang, leaving the exhibition, vowed to avenge the offense inflicted on Hao Ren and Suhan. One day, he would make them pay for everything. After the exhibition at Eastern Ocean University, Hao Ren decided to concentrate on cultivating. He experimented in combining metal, water, and wood. Ren finally began to understand how he should practice the great 5-element cultivation technique that Miss Su had shown him. It can transform the 5 elements of each other at will. It cancelled its original method and created a new one. After studying the light path sword, he finally made some progress. Suddenly something was happening to him. He didn't recognize the world he was in. He had just been to the university. Was it because of his cultivation that he came to another world? Seriously? And he was trying so hard to adapt to that world. Hao Ren understood that in this situation he needed to find a higher place to have a better view and navigate the surrounding area. Under the influence of the heavy snow, he decided to set out, walking through the fresh, crunchy snow under his feet. Each step was a palpable effort, but his desire to reach the top was stronger than his fatigue. With each step, Hao Ren's strength gradually drained away. Fatigue grew and movement became increasingly difficult. He could feel the snow churning under his feet, and the wind in his face reminded him of the cold and high-altitude conditions. Undoubtedly, such extreme conditions could have a strong impact on his body. Soon, Hao Ren realized that he couldn't keep going any further. He stopped, propping himself up on his knees, and felt his breathing grow heavy. He looked around to take a look at the surrounding scenery and realized that this place really wasn't picturesque. With fatigue in his eyes and an understanding of the unfavorable conditions, Hao Ren was forced to admit that this place could even be called disgusting. Suddenly, steam rose from under his feet, the snow disappeared, and the ground opened up. Just a moment ago, the snow was melting under Hao Ren's feet, but suddenly everything changed, and a fiery lava spread out in front of him. This rapid change in the landscape caused him shock and bewilderment. Thoughts flashed through my mind that this might be some sort of apocalyptic test. This change of scene made it feel as if the fate of the world itself hung in the balance. The plot became even more complicated when huge birds of prey appeared on the horizon, similar to white eagles. Their attack triggered a new surge of adrenaline, and Hao Ren was forced to fight for his life. He struggled desperately, fending off the birds. The color of their feathers made them even more mysterious and menacing. In the struggle, one of the birds was attacked by him, and in the blink of an eye, it was defeated. But instead of emitting blood, ink began to flow out of her body. This unexpected and unusual effect caused Hao Ren to freeze. It was something so incredible that he began to wonder what was going on. Then he realized that all this could be part of the amazing world of art embodied in the paintings of the master of Asia, Qin Shoang. This moment led him to think that he might have found himself inside one of the master's works, where reality and imagination merge into a single whole. This created a new level of mystery and unpredictability, adding an unexpected twist to what was happening. He looked up and saw the huge face of Asia's best artist, Qin Shoang. He was holding a paintbrush. The young man heard the words addressed to him. The dragon artist had said that he wouldn't stand on ceremony with him during the exam. Hao Ren, standing on a patch of land surrounded by boiling lava, thought that perhaps this was the assistant inspector's exam, and it looked like Qin Shoang was taking it. He continued up the mountain. At the top, he saw various white-colored monsters that he'd had to fight. They appeared with enviable regularity. Ren realized that this was obviously Qin Shoang's painting, so he could draw anything here. Chopping off the heads of the monsters that appeared, Hao Ren felt as if he was fighting the examiner himself. He can constantly draw more and more animals in this world. Sooner or later, Hao Ren's strength would run out. Then he noticed that the monsters he had hit had black ink instead of blood. Precisely. Ink. Since these things are drawn, then he can draw here too. Metal, water, and wood will help him. On top of the mountain, he drew a large white bird that he had once seen in a book. I wonder if he drew it correctly. He thought that since he was inside the painting, there must be a border here as well. He sat down on the back of the painted bird, and they went to look for the borders of the picture. Ren thought that he might be able to get out of here if he found the borders of the painting. Famous artist and part-time dragon Qin Shoang was surprised that this obnoxious boy drew something in his picture. How dare he denigrate his work again? If he wants to get out, it's useless. Hao Ren can only dream of this. The artist took 3 brushes in each hand and drew a giant knight in the picture. Hao Ren, inside the painting, seeing this giant monster, exclaimed that it wasn't fair. At the same time, he thought, since Qin Shoang is so desperate to stop him, it looks like his guess about the border is correct. Almost all of his spiritual energy went into drawing this bird. He wouldn't stand a chance if he started fighting the giant knight right now. He needed to get out of here as soon as possible. Apparently, you can only rely on your own hand. A blinding bolt of lightning struck the center of the painting, scattering drops of black ink everywhere. Hao Ren was released. Qin Shoang noticed that it was a great job. This boy has exceptional intelligence and skills. He got out of the picture so fast. No wonder Su Han chose him. After a while, Su Han asked inspector and artist Qin Shoang, "What is the result of the tests?" She hoped he was an unbiased inspector. Shoang replied that he had certainly passed the exam. He will report the results to the Dragon God Shrine. She doesn't have to worry about it. In fact, he was thinking that the next time, the test for this person wouldn't be so easy. Then Miss Su went to see Hao Ren. He asked her what brought the girl here. She replied that she just found out about the upcoming exam today, so she came to take a look. She congratulated him on passing the exam successfully. It only took him a few months to reach the Kang level. The young man replied that he was just lucky today. Su Han thought about how Ren had first defeated Zhang Yutao, and now he had successfully passed Qin Shoang's exam. Looks like he's a real genius. After Zhao Yanzi's birthday, the Western Ocean Dragon Clan began to hold the upper hand in the fight against the Eastern Ocean Dragon Clan. 6 elders from the West Ocean Dragon tribe have reached the 7th realm, and Zhao Kuo only supports the East Ocean Dragon tribe. Hao Ren, after becoming an assistant inspector, became a real deterrent to the West Ocean clan. Hao Ren was staying at Zhao's house. Zhao Guan told him with a hand on his shoulder that he would become an official inspector sooner or later. Zhang Ping might be a sly old fox, but he would never dare mess with the inspector. One turned to Hao Ren and said that it was time to choose the ancestral Dharma treasure for him. Zi said that the ancestral Dharma treasure is related to the cultivator's mind and thoughts. Depending on the cultivation technique one practices, the amount and form of ancestral Dharma treasures varies. He can hide it in his body and use his blood to cultivate it. One day, it will become a part of him. Roughly speaking, the all-Dharma treasure and the bodies of their users coexist. The wife of the head of the house turned to Zhao Guan and asked him, "Don't you think it's too early for Hao Ren to have the ancestral Dharma treasure?" Guan asked the young man the same question. He thought for a while and replied that if he could help them with this in the future, then he wanted to give it a try. Zhao was overjoyed and told Zi to take Hao Ren to the Dragon Palace to choose the ancestral Dharma treasure. When he and the girl arrived at the Dragon Palace, Ren said that he had always thought that the ancestral Dharma treasures were stored in the Divine Treasure Palace. Meanwhile, Zi called Grandmaster Q. Ren asked her in a puzzled manner, "Isn't she the princess of the Dragon tribe? Why didn't she just summon Master here? In general, he himself should run to greet her." She quickly covered his mouth with her hand. "Hush, is he out of his mind? Q knew, the son of the legendary divine dragon, lives here. He is one of their great ancestors. Just then, a red door at the back of the temple opened, and a voice belonging to Q Nu's disciple Daoist Zhen said, "Can't they keep their voices down?" Zhen told them that it was only noon, and he had just dozed off. The girl bowed respectfully in front of him and asked if Master was at home right now. The Grand Master's disciple scratched his ear and said, "If they want to see his master, then let them come in a few years." Q Nu went to travel. Zi told him that in a few years it would be too late. Daoist Zhen looked at them slyly and said that his shoulders hurt more and more with age. Then Hao Ren offered the disciple of the Great Master a health massage. After a long session, a satisfied and flushed Zden asked the young people, "So they are here to obtain the ancestral Dharma treasure?" They confirmed his hunch. Taoist Zhen said that no one would be able to find his master unless he wanted to go back. But he can help them forge the ancestral Dharma treasure. He took the youth's hand in his and determined his 5-element body type. He chuckled and said it was a rare occurrence. Zden asked the youth to show him his cultivation technique. Hao Ren agreed and demonstrated the practice of the light tractate sword. The Grand Master's disciple made a sleepy face and said that he was still sleepy. He would have been able to help him forge the ancestral Dharma treasure if Ren had cultivated some other technique than the light tractate sword technique. Zi grabbed the disciple of the Great Master by the front of his shirt. She yelled at him not to play them off. Taoist Zhen whispered that she was just a weak dragon who had lost her dragon core. How dare she be so rude in front of him? He threw a lightning strike, and the girl was sent flying several meters away and fell to the ground. Ren rushed to Zai and asked Zhen, how dare he hit the princess? A disciple of the Grand Master said that he was a little annoyed by her. Let him get some sleep, and he needs to exercise before going to bed. He told the youth that if he wished to attack him, now was the time to do so. Hao Ren called him an arrogant bastard and charged. Taoist Zhen complimented him and said that he was quite good for a first-level cultivator. But if he thinks he can beat him, then he's too naive. The ancestral Dharma treasure is related to the cultivator's mind and thoughts. It never has a real form. A person should feel it and learn how to manage it. Ren realized that the light of the sword was in his body and could be controlled by his own consciousness. So this is his ancestral Dharma treasure. If he can visualize it, Taoist Zhen told himself that this wasn't bad. He knew that this youth was a genius. He had learned how to create a sword array formation so quickly. Hao Ren bowed respectfully before Taoist Zhen and thanked him for his helpful instructions. The Grand Master's disciple, who had been watching carefully, suddenly stretched and yawned. His reaction was a little unexpected and contrasted with the whole situation. He walked up to Hao Ren, smiling, and said with a slight sneer, so that he wouldn't be too smug. He informed Ren that Grand Master Q Nu's disciple Taoist Zhen only wanted to stretch before going to bed. Hao Ren then told Taoist Zhen he understands that he wanted to give him some instructions, but why did he need to knock out Zi? The Grand Master's disciple replied that he just let her sleep for a while, that's all. The spiritual swords obtained by the light tractate sword scroll are formless, but they will be able to kill enemies over 300 kilometers away in the future. And he would be able to summon more spiritual swords if he practiced more. The sword formation is perfect for him. The youth exclaimed, if he can set up 10,000 heart-piercing arrays, then he will earn tens of thousands of ancestral Dharma treasures. At this moment, Zi woke up and after hearing the last words of the dialogue, said that Taoist Zhen wasn't going to help them. Did Ren already receive the ancestral Dharma treasure? The disciple of the Great Master sighed and said to the youth, since he has come here, so be it, he won't let him come back empty-handed. He'd handed Ren some water substance and said it was a storage facility. He advised him to try to transfer his spiritual energy to this storage. Zhen also added that this is a portable storage facility. He can put his things in there and cultivate. But don't let him forget to transfer some of his spiritual energy to it from time to time so that it remains stable. Ren was delighted. This treasure must be one of the best. It's too valuable. Taoist Zhen said that he made it by accident. Nothing special. Then he yawned and said he needed to sleep. They should leave and not bother him again. When the Grand Master's disciple was out of sight, Hao Ren turned to the girl and said that this master was very powerful. Zi replied that he was just an arrogant brat. Ren thought ironically about how an arrogant girl like her would call someone else an arrogant brat. Zai looked at him suspiciously and said that he now had the treasures of the ancestral Dharma and owed her a favor. The young man replied that he would definitely pay her. Outside Eastern Ocean University, students were looking curiously at a red Ferrari parked next to the main entrance. Many people suggested that it was some rich man who arrived. But that wasn't the case. Hao had received this car from Zheguang a few minutes ago. They have these cars in the parking lot was probably invisible. Of course, he shouldn't have driven. This car was too conspicuous. When he left the driver's seat, the student's surprise was boundless. Yujia met him at the curb. She looked at him and then at the expensive car. Then she turned and walked away. The young man rushed after her. He said that it wasn't his car, it belonged to the Z family. The girl told him not to bother explaining anything. Yujia, with an ironic smile on her face, told Hao Ren that she had plans to visit her old school, Linshao High School, after lunch. She expressed a desire to spend time in the place where she studied and remember the past. She then asked Hao Ren if he would like to join her. This is the same school where Tsu is trained. Ren agreed with pleasure. Going to the old school could represent an opportunity to learn new ideas and experiences that could have a positive impact on his cultivation. In addition, it would also be an opportunity to support Yuju in her desire to remember her school years and experience some nostalgia. When the young people arrived at the school, they were met by Miss Luo's teacher. She asked what brought them here. Luo glanced at Hao Ren and asked the girl, "Is this her boyfriend? It looks familiar." Yujia replied that they were just studying at the same university. The teacher was surprised that they were just classmates without any relationship. Then she invited them to come to the school. When they entered one of the classrooms, they saw Zhao Yanzi sitting at the desk. The teacher asked her if she had finished writing the paper. Su replied that she was almost done. Miss Luo told Zhao Yanzi, "Why is she still resentful? After all, she had copied homework from other students. Doesn't she deserve to be punished? She did well in the midterms, but she shouldn't get too cocky about it." She pointed at Yujia and asked Z to learn from her older sister. It never bothered her. How she wished she could act like this girl. Zai glanced at Yujia and said that she was a good student and she was a bad one. I ran out of the classroom. Hao Ren rushed after her. Ren found Zli sitting alone in the schoolyard. She seemed lost and depressed. Walking up to her, he cautiously began the conversation. He reminded her of her high birth, that she was the princess of the dragon clan, and that she had strength and dignity that was incomparable to ordinary concerns. Hao Ren asked her a question. How can she hide here and cry? It was filled with a subtle tinge of surprise and discouragement. He wanted to remind her of her inner strength and resilience, as well as the responsibilities she had as a representative of the dragon clan. Su, in response, tried to defend her emotions by saying that she wasn't crying at all. She explained that it was just dust that got into her eyes, diverting attention from the true reasons for her mood. Hao Ren decided to support Z to make her feel better. He patted her head affectionately, showing his understanding and concern. He praised her, saying that she was doing great, and encouraged her to maintain her strength and self-confidence. He asked Z not to pay attention to the negative words spoken by the teacher. He encouraged her to believe in herself and her ability to overcome difficulties, emphasizing the importance of her self-esteem and confidence in her personal worth. It's not right that she's competing with Yujia. She's too wonderful in every way, and she shouldn't feel insignificant. It's normal that Yujia always wins. You just need to be yourself. Suddenly, Ji made a lightning-fast throw through herself, and the young man was on the ground. Did she call him a jerk and tell him that they were obviously here to make fun of her? She can't believe what he's saying to her. The girl performed a painful technique on Ren's elbow. At this time, Yujia, who happened to be nearby, asked in a sweet voice if she was bothering them. Ren turned to the girl and asked her to help him because he was barely breathing. Yujia squatted down and said that Miss Luo didn't want to say it. She was just too angry. She asked Z to just be herself. Zai thought irritably that they even spoke the same thing. But Yujia continued to speak as if nothing had happened. She was just like her when she was younger. In fact, even worse than her. Her grades were quite low, and her teachers didn't like her. She didn't even have any friends. She didn't want to go to school. Yujia would lock herself in her bedroom sometimes for the whole day. Until one day, she had a new neighbor who invited her for a walk. This guy had burst into her world like a ray of sunshine. He went out with her every day and helped her with her homework. Since then, she has been trying very hard to learn because she wants to become someone who deserves it. That's how she got to where she is now. Zig grabbed Ren by the collar and asked him why he was blushing so much. Wasn't he her neighbor? Hao Ren replied that it was a long time ago and they were just friends. However, Sue left him to rest on the ground and walked away, saying that she didn't have time to listen to his nonsense. Then she turned around and reminded him of the upcoming meeting this weekend. Hao Ren and Kaxi Yujia went across town to a nondescript apartment. The girl knocked on the door and it was opened by an old lady, God's Dandelion. She was very happy about Kaxi Yujia's arrival. The old lady invited the young people in. Immediately, the girl started cleaning the apartment. Shi Yujia then washed the laundry and hung it up to dry. Grandma thanked her and glanced at Hao Ren, telling him that he must be the boy that Yujia often mentioned. At this moment, the young man noticed the old woman's strong aura. Grandma kept talking about how Yujia was the best girl he could ever find. He must protect her. The young man told her that she had misunderstood them. He and the girl are not in a special relationship, they are just friends. Then the girl joined in the conversation and said that they already had to go. The girl promised to return in a few days. At parting, the old woman said a strange phrase to Ren that since ancient times it has been known that everyone should know their limits. Do not overdo it, otherwise he will be in danger. When they reached the street, where it was already evening, Ren asked Yujia, "Who is this woman?" The girl replied that this is an ordinary old lady. She moved here recently and lives alone. She feels sorry for her, so she visits her once a week and helps with the housework. Hao Ren walked the girl to the door of her apartment, and she whispered in his ear, "Is it true that he told the old lady that they were just friends?" Then she seemed to change her mind about going on, and told him not to let it cross his mind. They'll see him next week. Hao Ren continued to cultivate strenuously. Late in the evening, something strange began to happen to him. He felt very ill and eventually began to lose consciousness. Suddenly, a masked man appeared in the room. He pulled out a golden-colored pill from the folds of his clothes and offered it to the youth to swallow immediately. This medicine immediately brought him back to normal. He asked the man who he was. The woman who was hiding her face under a mask advised him not to ask too many questions. She said that the heavenly trial wasn't over yet. She ordered him to do as she said. Let him use the sword scroll of the light tractate. Not only can he control swords, but he can also summon lightning bolts. Inspired by his advice and support, Hao Ren took on the challenge of learning how to control lightning. He decided to do everything possible to master this power and use it at will. Despite his doubts and fear of the unknown, he decided to go this way boldly. After concentrating his energy and attention, Hao Ren began to train. He imagined himself controlling the lightning, directing its flow wherever he wished. He delved into the process, trying to understand its energy and flow. An important role in his success was played by a masked woman who was there, supporting and watching him. Her words inspired him and gave him confidence that he was able to cope with this challenge. She stressed that he is already close to success, that his efforts are bearing fruit. He made an effort to deal with his inner fears and doubts. He knew that he would have to overcome himself and open up to new opportunities. Ren felt the connection between heaven and earth. His spiritual energy had greatly improved. He thanked her for her helpful instructions. When the woman left, Ren thought that her aura looked familiar to him. He learned how to control lightning. Uncle Zikyo will pass through the heavenly trial in a couple of days. Maybe he can help him. The day of the heavenly trial has arrived. This was Hao Ren's first visit to the palace. Z asked him why he was acting like a redneck. Ren enthusiastically replied that everything here is made of white jade. He asked her if she knew how much it was worth. The girl replied that Uncle Kuo was the last hope of the Eastern Ocean Dragon clan. They don't care what it takes, as long as he survives the heavenly trial. Ze urged him on and suggested that he follow her. The banquet is about to start. As Ren followed Z, he thought that she was still very worried about her uncle. There were tables for guests in the large pillared hall. Zhao Guang sat at the head of the banquet. On his right was his brother Kuo, and on his left was his wife, Miss Zhao. One raised his glass and said that Kuo had finally finished 90 days of training. He offered to drink to his health. Kuo thanked everyone for their support, especially his brother. Zhao Guang asked him if he was confident that he could survive the heavenly trial this time. My brother replied that it was just a heavenly trial. He is not afraid at all and will calmly survive it. Guan laughed and supported him. A real man has no fear. Hao Renzi asked the same question. Would her uncle be all right? Will he be able to survive the heavenly trial? The girl replied that after all, Uncle Ku is the #1 cultivator. He will definitely survive. And he also asked, what if he could weaken the heavenly trial? Would it help him? The heavenly trial is usually a lightning trial, right? His light tractate sword is actually a lightning cultivation technique. It can dissolve and absorb the power of lightning. He is confident that he can weaken the heavenly trial if he tries hard. Z contradicted him and said that there were different types of heavenly trials. Lightning isn't the only kind. There are also trials with earth, water, fire, and wood. If it's just a simple lightning bolt, then Uncle Kuo can handle it on his own. But if it was the trial of the night sky, purple cloud, or something even more powerful, then Uncle Kuo would be in danger. He was about to reach the heavenly dragon realm, the heavenly immortal realm. In all 4 dragon clans, there hadn't been a single heavenly dragon for more than 400 years. Ren asked the girl, is it really that hard to break through to the heavenly dragon realm from the 8th realm? She said it was very difficult. That's why the entire Eastern Ocean is preparing for this. She believes that Uncle Kuo will definitely manage. Thunder and lightning bolts were heard outside the palace walls. The heavenly trials started ahead of time. Uncle Kuo made an impressive impression with his full combat readiness. His eyes shone with determination, and his breathing was calm and steady. He was absolutely committed to his goal and was ready, by the way, to use his divine weapon, a mystical iron 3-pointed spear with a double point. The spear that was in his hands gave off an aura of might and secret knowledge. This weapon was woven from legendary materials and endowed with the power to change the course of battle. His every move with the weapon in his hands expressed skill and experience, and also had an impressive effect on those around him. His manner was characterized by concentration and concentration. He was in a state of harmony with himself and the world around him, which allowed him to fully display his martial arts in the upcoming heavenly trial. He ignored external stimuli and kept a clear head in any situation. Not only was he a fighter, but he was also a master, able to interact with divine energy and transfer it into his actions. Uncle Kuo represented the strength and wisdom that was the legacy of his ancestors. His combat readiness, which was based on divine weapons and inner focus, made him an unsurpassed warrior and convinced everyone watching the start of the heavenly trial that Zhao Kuo would definitely pass the difficult test of heaven. The array formation was activated. Everyone present watched the start of the heavenly trial with excitement. An unprecedented storm broke over the palace. The sky exploded with thousands of bolts of lightning and shook with powerful thunderclaps. Zhao Guang anxiously whispered that this was the 9th heaven of 18 lightning bolts. Su asked her father how this was even possible. Can Uncle Kuo survive in this case? Wang replied, it is said that even a god might not be able to withstand the 9th heaven 18 lightning bolts. His strength exceeds all expectations. Z was deeply concerned about Uncle Kuo's fate, and her eyes filled with tears of worry and anxiety. She couldn't contain her emotions as she saw his willingness to fight the heavenly trial. Her heart beat in unison with his determination. Kuo, noticing Z's tears, turned his gaze to her. He understood her concern and desire to protect him. With a big smile on his face, he asked her to stop crying. His words were a comfort and a reminder that he was ready for what was coming. Then he ordered Z to just watch how he handled the heavenly trial. It was his way of showing her his confidence and strength, as well as giving her a chance to see how he handled things. It could also serve as an inspiration and reinforcement to see him take on incredible challenges. His determination and self-confidence were not only an example to Zai, but also an important support to her. As long as he faced the heavenly trial head-on, his perseverance and strength could become a platform on which Z could draw inspiration from his example. Ren exclaimed that this person was indeed the #1 cultivator. It can even absorb the power of the heavenly trial. Zhao Guan explained that the heavenly trial of the 9th heaven of 18 lightning bolts was different from other heavenly trials. It includes 18 lightning bolts. Each of them is twice as strong as the previous one. Hao Ren deduced that this meant that the last lightning bolt was hundreds of thousands of times stronger than the first. So far, Kuo had defended well, and everyone was admiring his skill and strength. They knew that Mr. Kuo could do it. One asked how many lightning strikes his brother had already taken. He was told that he had already successfully repelled 9 lightning bolts. Each of the lightning bolts, meanwhile, grew stronger and stronger, and the sky turned a bright red. Kuo kept saying that he would definitely survive. Suddenly, there was an unbearably violent discharge, and a bright flash blinded everyone watching the test. Then everyone saw that a bolt of lightning had hit Mr. Kuo's body. Guan ordered the activation of the Heaven and Earth Array formation. The injured Kuo exclaimed to Zhao Guan, "What is this array? It's absorbing the blood of their soldiers. Does he want to destroy the Eastern Ocean Dragon Clan?" My brother replied that he was the hope of the Eastern Ocean. They had agreed to sacrifice themselves for him. The soldiers shouted that they were willing to die for Mr. Kuo and for the Eastern Ocean. Kuo called his brother a jerk. He can't let the soldiers die for him. He swore to tear the cursed heavens apart. Everyone saw the dragon's lithe body soar into the sky. Kuo shouted that he didn't want the soldiers to die for him. He'd rather destroy the heavens. Zhao Guan was shocked. "Dragon Core, is my brother crazy?" Kuo, meanwhile, was rushing forward. Everyone watched in fascination. Ren exclaimed in delight, "So this is how a cultivator at the peak of the 8th realm fights." Kuo said that he had won fights all his life, and he wouldn't end there. He was approaching the heart of heaven, confident of his victory. Suddenly, there was an explosion and a flash lit up the sky. Kuo was on the ground, thinking he was dying. His brother immediately picked him up. Guan Honyu's wife ordered the doctors to be called immediately. Zhao Guang said that Kuo was fine. His heavenly trial wasn't over yet. He ordered his wife and the others to leave now. Suzu bravely declared that she would stay here with him and Uncle Kuo. She was immediately slapped in the face by her father, and he told her, "Does she even understand what's going on? How can she be so headstrong? It's impossible for Kuo to survive the last lightning bolt." It failed. After that, the Eastern Ocean Dragon Clan's fame would fade, and they would be destroyed. They must all leave if any of their clan is to survive. Then the soldiers shouted that they were prepared to mistake lightning for Lord Kuo. Hao Ren also interjected. He turned to Mr. Zhao and said that it was too early to give up. They will all fight together until the end. His daughter confirmed Xenia's words. Zi firmly said that she would not leave Uncle Kuo and her father. Everyone looked up at the heavens, all ready to take the final blow. When the sky was about to strike its final blow, Hao Ren activated the sword array formation. An incredible force of lightning streaked towards the ground. Zhao Guan had fully experienced the power of the heavenly trial. The wounded Kuo exclaimed that it was enough to sacrifice yourself for him. He decided to use his blood to protect the clan. He had to protect the clan even with his life. He turned to the heavens and said, if they want to harm his clan, it will only happen over his dead body. Damned heavens, not everything is in their hands. He is the master of his own destiny. Suddenly, the dark cloud hanging over the palace disappeared. The black mess of thunderclouds was suddenly replaced by a clear blue sky. Kuo was lying on the ground with no sign of life. Everyone rushed to him. Su took his hand and urged him to wake up. She was crying. My uncle put his hand on her head and said he thought it was time for him to say goodbye. He advised her not to act recklessly in the future when he wasn't around. The girl burst into tears and asked him not to say that. He replied that the cycle of life and death is the law of the world. He lived for 300 years. Now his time was up. Then he turned to Hao Ren. He asked him to take care of Zai. He knows that Zhen is a good guy, and he had saved the Eastern Ocean Dragon Plain many times. Now his meridians are destroyed and the dragon core is damaged. He only had 10% of his former strength left. He wants to give this core to him. Let him accept this as his last gift. He asked him to protect the Eastern Ocean in the future. Zai, worried and agitated after seeing Uncle Kuo's tragic encounter with the heavenly trial, brought the news to the Grand Master's disciple Mr. Zhen. Her voice was filled with concern, and her eyes were filled with concern for her uncle's fate. Zi informed him that Uncle Kuo was unable to overcome the heavenly trial. Zi begged Mr. Zhen to save her uncle. Her eyes filled with tears, and there was a sincere plea in her voice. The disciple of the great master saw sincere feelings for the person who was dear and dear to the girl. Mr. Jen, as a disciple of a great master, might have the ability and knowledge to help in such a difficult situation. Jen replied that his meridians and dragon core had been destroyed. Even an immortal can't save her uncle's life. Z asked with an unspeakable sadness in her voice, "How is this possible?" The Grand Master's disciple scratched his ear and told her not to make such a sad face. He had said that he couldn't be saved by immortals, but he was known to be much better than immortals. He reported that there was a herb called Seven-Colored Snow Lotus on the Sky Mountain in the northwest. With her help, he might be able to save Mr. Kuo's life. Zhao Guang decided to send people to get this herb immediately. But Jen calmed everyone down and asked them to listen to him to the end. Lotuses can only be found in the depths of karst caves, and they repel magic power. If people are too strong, they will wither when they get close to them. Therefore, only cultivators below the third realm can approach them. He looked at Ren and asked him, has he reached the second realm yet? Now that's his job. Let him go get some herbs. He needs 6 grand. Ren wondered where he got the second kingdom from. Then he remembered that Uncle Zokyo had given him 10% of his strength. Wang said that the Heavenly Mountain is Qin Shuang's territory. He definitely won't be happy about their visit. Suddenly, Su Han suddenly appeared in the square. She said that she would go with Hao Ren. He and Qin Shuang are both inspectors. It will be easier if she also goes to the mountain. When Su Han and Hao Ren were heading up the mountain, the girl told Jen that they should keep Zhao Kuo's failure a secret. If this news reaches the Western Ocean, the current world will be destroyed. They glided on magic swords through the air. From above, they had a picturesque view. Everything was visible in the palm of their hand. They saw a mountain painted purple. Su Han said that this is the Heavenly Mountain Defense Formation, which is the territory of the Earth Elemental Dragons. Territories around rivers and seas belong to the Water Element Dragons. The Earth Element Tree Dragons hide in the deep mountains in the interior of the mainland. When they arrived at the Heavenly Mountain, they were met by Qin Shuang himself. He told Su Han that she should have warned him before coming to visit. He hadn't even prepared anything special for her. Then he looked at her companion and said that although he was not happy that the assistant inspector was also here, he welcomed him to his territory. Ren told Mr. Qin that they had come for the local herb, the 7-colored snow lotus. Shuang replied that he didn't care why they needed these herbs, but they weren't any ordinary herbs. They grow in the caves of the snowy mountain. They take hundreds of years to grow. How is he going to pay for them? Without waiting for a response, Qin Shuang himself decided to take out his own payment for borrowing the flowers. He said that if Su Han married him, then he, Hao Ren, could take as many flowers as he wanted. However, Su Han's reaction was unequivocal and decisive. She was far from appreciating the tone and content of his offer. She told him that if he dared to say it again, she would kill him. Her reaction was so decisive that it emphasized her serious attitude to the situation and her willingness to protect her sense of dignity. Then she got to the point, inquiring about the location of the 7-colored snow lotuses. This matter was clearly more important to her than the idle chatter on top of the Heavenly Mountain. Qin Shuang was filled with incredible indignation. Like the stroke of an artist's brush, his pride distorted his expression. Is that how she asks for help? He had once remained tactful during their meeting in the Eastern Ocean, but now, in the abode of heavenly peaks, he was the master. Like a magician, Shuang took out his hidden brush from his sleeve and waved it. In response to his gesture, 2 majestic snow wolves burst out of the darkness. They were willing to grant his every wish, and the target of their attack was Su Han. But her reaction was unexpectedly quick and decisive. The mental sword that was hidden deep in her mind helped her. The wolves released from the snowy hills of consciousness weren't strong enough to deal with the wave of her determination. The forces clashed, and the result was Su Han's tireless reaction. Meeting the wolves' attack with her mental sword, she sliced through their power as if they were just details in her imagination. Qin Shuang's laughter rang out like the chime of a crystal freezing the evening air. He acknowledged that she was strong, but warned that her carelessness could cost her dearly. With another swipe of the brush, several monsters were unleashed at once, rushing at the girl in a frenzy. She turned to Hao Ren and asked him what he was waiting for. It's not like they're fighting one-on-one. The young man apologized and said that he was just distracted. The two of them quickly dealt with Shoang's hand-drawn monsters. However, Inspector Qin Shoang used lightning, but Ren could control it. A huge bolt, created by himself, landed on the artist's head. He was defeated. Su-Han put her sword to his head and asked, "Where can they find 7-colored snow lotuses?" Hao Ren and Su-Han walked confidently into the mountains. Ren told the inspector he didn't think Qin Shoang would give them the map so easily. Guided by this map, they found a cave where, according to the artist, snow lotuses should grow. Inside the cave, they saw a white snow lion cub of the heavenly mountains. It was a rare species. It looks like he was lost and injured. Hao Ren examined the cub's wound and bandaged it. The girl hurried him on and told him that they had very little time. She urged him to quickly gather the snow lotuses before heading back. Ren, while continuing to help the animal, said that he couldn't leave it like this. In addition, it is not very difficult to help him. He finished his work and said goodbye to the baby. However, the lion grabbed his jacket in its teeth. Jen leaned over and patted him on the head and told him that he couldn't stay with him. One important person is waiting for the herbs from the cave, and his family must be waiting for him too. Su-Han, watching this, thought that this person was very kind. After a while, according to the map, they arrived at the right place. Suddenly, they saw a wolf holding a snow lotus in its mouth. They gave chase. He led them to a huge cave that was full of snow lotuses. The girl noticed that this wolf was growling strangely. She was wary. Something was wrong here. Ren bent down to pick one of the lotuses, and Su-Han shouted at him to be careful. She drew her mental sword, and they saw that she was surrounded by wolves. They stood back to back, ready to defend themselves. The girl said that she foresaw something like this. The only reason Qin Shoang had told them where the snow lotuses were was because of his confidence that there were these demonic beasts in the cave that would take revenge on them later. These beasts are obviously the protectors of the snow lotuses. Judging from their aura, they are as strong as cultivators who are at least in the 6th realm. Su-Han told the youth that there were too many beasts. She would try to hold them off, and he would have to find a way out of here. Ren asked how he could do this. How would he leave her alone? She said it was all right. The balance of the entire human world depends on Zhao Kuo's life. Their first priority is to save his life. The wolves charged, and the battle began. Seeing the huge advantage of the beasts, Ren refused to leave the girl and also took the fight. Help came from somewhere they didn't think it would. The kid Ren saved brought a whole pack of lions. Ren asked him why he had come back. Without the help of the snow lions, Su-Han and Hao Ren would have had a hard time. But even with such help, the strength of the wolf pack was several times greater than the opposite side. Su-Han told Ren that they would kill them sooner or later. She offered to climb on the back of one snow lion. Soon the lion carried them out of the cave. Ren thanked the lion for his help and said that it was time for him to go home now. But he grabbed him by the jacket with his teeth and tried to hold him back. Miss Su told him that he liked it. Perhaps he should take it with him and let it become his spirit beast. The youth asked, "What is a spirit beast?" The girl replied that spirit beasts are pets kept by cultivators. Since Leo likes him so much, let him take him in and give him a name. Ren said he would call him White Lump. When they returned to the Dragon Palace, they were met by Zai. She asked them how it went. Did they manage to get the snow lotuses? Ren took out the flowers and handed them to the girl. He told her to give them to Mr. Zhang. No time to waste. Miss Su said that she should report it to the Dragon God Shrine. She said goodbye and left. A disciple of the great magician, after examining Uncle Kuo, said that his death was near. If they had returned an hour later, no one would have been able to cure him. Everyone thanked Mr. Zhang for his help, and he declined. He said it was nothing. Just don't let them forget to let him rest next time. If they have anyone to thank, let them thank Hao Ren. Zhao Guang thanked the youth and said that it was thanks to him that the Eastern Ocean had survived. Zi also thanked Hao Ren profusely. He replied that he would always try his best to help her. Wang informed them that his brother Kuo's life was saved, but he had lost 100 years of strength. Su asked him why this had happened. Then Uncle Kuo himself appeared in the room and said that 100 years of power is nothing. He would still be able to return to the 8th realm. Zi rushed over and told him that he should rest as much as possible to recover from his severe injury. However, Kuo turned to Hao Ren and said that East Ocean was very lucky to have become Zi's fiancé. He will never forget how he saved his life. Guang said that it was all thanks to the 7-colored snow lotuses He got out. Uncle Kuo looked into the youth's eyes and asked, did he really go to the Snow Lotus Cave on Sky Mountain? It's a very dangerous place, and all the demonic beasts there are as strong as 6th realm cultivators. He turned to his brother and asked, how could he let Hao Ren go there? What if something bad had happened to him? The young man replied that he was not alone. Miss Su was with him, so it wasn't very dangerous. Also, he got someone there. Hao Ren held out his palm and told the white ball to come out. Everyone saw the snow lion of the heavenly mountains. He looked really cute. Ren said that the white ball helped them in the cave. Kuo said that the snow lions of the heavenly mountains are unusual spiritual beasts. They live in the mountains and move in groups. They are very wary of humans, so he asked Hao Ren how he was able to tame him. Ren said it was a long story. Zhao Kuo told the youth that he understood him very well. He was watching the snow lions. It is a very rare spirit beast with elements of ice and fire. He advised him to cultivate it well, and one day he would be able to reach level A. Ren asked, what is level A? It was Tsu who answered. Spirit beasts are divided into 4 levels. A, B, C, and D. Its white lump now belongs to level CA. Level spiritual beasts are the most powerful. Most of them are the pets of great cultivators. And B-level doors are slightly weaker than A-level beasts, but they are also very strong. Ren noticed that his white lump was only C-level. Zi told him that she had checked his age. He reached level C when he wasn't even 6 months old yet. For example, A-level spirit beasts are already at least several hundred years old. Kuo noticed that he was always lucky. He must have done many good deeds in his past life. Ren stroked his pet and told it that he didn't know it had such potential. When Hao Ren opened the door with his key and returned home, he was greeted by the twins. They offered him a choice of several dishes so that he could eat right away. Lin asked him sympathetically, could it be that he wants to take a bath first? Lai Lai went further and asked if he wanted her. Ren asked them to stop fooling around. He sat down at the table and ate a good meal. Then he turned to the sisters and asked if they knew how to cultivate a spirit beast. The twins saw a snow lion that rushed over to hug them. Lai Li asked Ren, where did he get this lion? It seems that he is not quite well-mannered. Unexpectedly, Lin turned him into a puppy. She asked Zhenya if he wanted to keep him, then such a depraved puppy should be neutered first. Ren asked her to stop and told her that the white ball had saved his life. Lai Li asked him, obviously he wants to raise it and it has a lot of potential. Spiritual beasts grow mainly by absorbing spiritual energy. If there are several ways to get spiritual energy, the fastest way is to feed him pills, but it will cost a lot of money. It can also absorb his spiritual energy, but it will affect his cultivation process, so she doesn't recommend it. The last method is to let it absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Compared to the other two, this is slightly slower but more practical. Ren asked, how can he let the white lump absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth? Lai Li replied that it was very simple, just need to take a walk with it. Ren clarified, walk like a dog. When Havo Ren strolled outside with a white ball, all the girls admired this cute puppy. Ren barely managed to escape from their encirclement, declaring that it was time for him to go to class. When they were alone with the lion cub, he asked him why he was so attracted to all the girls around him. Why do all the girls think he's cute? Ren couldn't figure it out. At this time, Shi Yuzhia walked up to them. She took the lion cub in her arms and asked if it was his puppy. She found him very nice. Ren thought about the fact that recently he often sees such a picture. The girl asked if he hadn't come to the university for a long time because of this puppy. It is not allowed to skip pairs. The young man replied that he missed classes because of this, that he had to help the Zhao family. Yuzhia was upset and asked, so he was at that beauty's house all this time. She let go of the puppy and was ready to leave them. Zhen tried to explain everything to her. He said that Zhao Yanziko's uncle was seriously ill, and Mr. and Mrs. Zhao were too busy to take care of him, so they asked him for help. The girl replied that this time she believed him. She advised him not to miss any more classes without warning her, otherwise it would be very difficult for her to excuse him, even though she is a prefect. The student union is going to welcome freshmen. If he wants to correct and make up for his absenteeism, let him come and help them. Soon, Hao Ren was standing in front of the university entrance and greeting each new student. Suddenly, he saw Zheng Yitao, the crown prince of the Western Ocean clan. The guy he defeated in a brutal fight at Zi's birthday party. Yitao, looking at Ren, asked him what was wrong. Is there a rule that people from West Ocean can't study at East Ocean University? He informed him that he had scored the most points in the West Ocean City University entrance exam. It should be an honor for them to host him. Then he quietly whispered that he wasn't sure if this university could be called Eastern Ocean University in the future. Ren asked him what he meant by that. He wondered if they knew about Zhao Kuo's failure. Ren warned Yitao not to forget that Zhao Kuo had entered the heavenly dragon realm. Let him think twice before stirring up trouble here. Yitao advised him to relax. They don't have any bad intentions towards the Eastern Ocean. He's only here to learn. But he had humiliated him badly at Zhao Yanzi's birthday party, and he intends to pay him for it repeatedly. He'll pay for it soon enough. After saying these words, Yitao left. When the welcome event at Eastern Ocean University was over, Hao Ren went to the Zai house to participate in the celebration of saving the Eastern Ocean. Zhao Guan raised his wine glass and offered a toast to Hao Ren, who had saved the Eastern Ocean from many disasters. He stressed that his gratitude to him has no limits. Ren thought that his hands were already numb. They've been thanking him for a week. Kuo turned to him and asked why he had chosen the light tractate sword technique for cultivation. Ren replied that although this cultivation process was difficult and slow, after he mastered this technique, it would become several times more powerful than other techniques. As he spoke, the young man thought about how he couldn't tell him that he had chosen her because she sounded better than the others. Kuo said that was exactly the case. None of them thought that she could withstand the impact of the heavenly trial. They underestimated it. Zhao Guang suggested that we get down to business. He said that it was announced that Kuo had successfully made a breakthrough and entered the heavenly dragon realm. Therefore, the 4 oceans will open the 9-dragon palace to celebrate the birth of a new heavenly dragon. Ren expressed a desire to know what it is, a palace with 9 dragons? Zi pointed out to him with displeasure that he had been with them for quite some time. Did he never learn the basic knowledge of dragon clans? The 9-dragon palace is an ancient palace that was built in prehistoric times. This is the birthplace of all the dragon clans of the 4 oceans. 4 oceans manages the 9 dragons' palace together. It only exists in the void and appears when the 4 oceans simultaneously activate the formation. It's been opened every 550 years, but it's only been 3 years since they last opened it. This time, they opened it to celebrate Uncle Kuo's breakthrough. Ren asked if this was a proposal from the Western Ocean. They announced that Mr. Zhao had successfully passed through the trials of heaven, and then West Ocean wanted to celebrate. If they found out that Mr. Zhao had failed, East Ocean would be accused of cheating. Guan agreed with the young man. Ren is right. Right now, their priority task is to travel to the 9-dragon palace. Each ocean can send 2 people there. They thought about it and decided to send Ren and Zi there. This is a talent test among all the oceans, and there are many treasures in the palace. They can't come back empty-handed. Ren is the best talent of the Eastern Ocean, so they should count on themselves again. Ren looked at Zi and said if she is afraid, he will protect her. The girl replied, why would she be afraid? Just let him leave it all to her. Guan then went back to the fact that Zheng Yitao had come to Eastern Ocean University. Guan thinks he's here to find out Kuo's current cultivation level. He instructed Ren to monitor Zheng Yitao's movements at the university. Kuo called the young man to come with him. They went out to the training ground and he showed him his technique. Ren asked him, so he's cultivating the light path sword. The man replied that he had lost all the strength he had in the process of cultivating, so he started all over again. It seems like cultivating this scroll is the right choice. He told Ren that he used to cultivate here alone. He brought him here because he wants to give him this. Ren asked Kuo what he meant by that. He replied that he was leaving East Ocean City because he was a burden, a time bomb for East Ocean. Now that he's almost recovered, he can leave the Eastern Ocean and travel to increase his strength and avoid contact with people from the four oceans. While he was gone, he, Hao Ren, would be the protector of the Eastern Ocean. At Zhao's house, Guam gave final instructions to Hao Ren and Zai. He was talking about the Nine Dragon Palace being open tomorrow. Without the Dragon Core, Zhi needs him, Hao Ren, to provide her with spiritual energy. Ren asked him how to do it. Guam replied that this was only possible through physical contact. He and Zhi sat down in front of each other, and Ren asked if there were any other ways just in case. Then it will start. After transmitting the energy, the girl immediately fell asleep. After she slept for a while and woke up, they began to get ready for the road. She said that visiting the Nine Dragon Palace is a test, as well as ancestral worship. They need to change their outfits. After putting on their new clothes, they were ready to set out. Zhi said that they were going to the fifth heaven, and only this Kun painting with the river mountain could lead them there. Mother Zhi advised her to always be with Hao when they got there. She asked her not to be headstrong. Ren asked Mama Zai, "Why is the palace called the Nine Dragon Palace?" She replied that the Great Dragon Palace was in the center, and the outer rings had 9 regions. These are the separate palaces of their 9 ancestors. Every palace is in the void. They need to find a way to get inside. Different palaces have different treasures. When they arrived at the Holy Land's territory, they were met by Prince Itao and stated that he couldn't believe that the Eastern Ocean had sent a person to participate in the ancestral worship in the Nine Dragon Palace. This is a great shame for the dragons. Representatives from other oceans supported him and said that Prince Itao was right. How could an outsider enter their holy land? Miss Zhao said that Hao Ren is her future son-in-law. It can represent the Eastern Ocean. Everyone laughed and said that they didn't believe that East Ocean had chosen a person as a son-in-law. It turns out that this is all true. The Eastern Ocean, it seems, will soon cease to exist. Itao suggested that Hao Ren make a bet. Traveling to the Nine Dragon Palace is a chance to find treasures. He offers to compete. Who will get more treasures and whose treasures will be better, he will win. The loser will kneel in front of the winner. Hao Ren immediately agreed to all the terms of the bet. Miss Zhao handed the scroll with the map to Jen and said that this map was passed down from generation to generation. It's very valuable. Let him not let it fall into the wrong hands. The young man replied that there were no traps in the Nine Dragon Palace, but it wasn't safe. They must first find the Great Dragon Palace and not waste too much energy. They said goodbye to their parents and set off. Miss Zhao thought about how they should return safely. Hao Ren told Zhi that they needed to find the Great Dragon Palace, but it doesn't know how to find it because they don't know the direction. They joined hands and headed east. The young man saw that Zhi was not feeling well, feels it. He asked her what had happened. Why hadn't she told him earlier that she was cold? He asked her to stay close to him. They continued on. Ren told the girl that during this trip to the Nine Dragon Palace, they could find some elixir of the gods pills for her Uncle Kuo to restore his strength faster. Suddenly, on their way, they saw a building through the fog. Ren guessed that this must be the Great Dragon Palace. He said they only had 4 hours left. They must hurry. Soon, they were on the walls of the palace. It was an impressive sight. They'd finally got inside. Zhi exclaimed in surprise that there were so many divine weapons and treasures here, even more than their divine treasure palace. Ren saw the lighted candles and said, "It looks like they arrived here before them." Zhi suggested that he pay homage to his ancestors and then go back for the treasure. Ren told her that they weren't here to win an argument, but to try to find the elixir of the gods' pills. Zhi said, "Does he mean to say that they will go to the 9 palaces deep in the void?" But she doesn't see any clues here. Ren agreed with her and added that the map only shows the path from the entrance to the Great Dragon Palace without any other information. Legends say that the divine dragon had 9 children and the palaces in the void are named after them. But why on both sides of this palace are 18 stones? A hunch flashed in his eyes, and he threw himself against the palace wall, flew up, and surveyed the surroundings from a height. When he returned, he told the girl that he understood everything. She asked him what was in there. He replied that he had found hidden palaces and they needed to get there. He urged her to come quickly with him. But the girl told him to go there himself because her spiritual energy is running out. She no longer has the strength. On the way, she would only be a burden to him. Ren replied that he needed her to show him the way. He took her on his back, and they continued on their way. Ren told Z that the 2 rows of stone statues in the palace indicated that there were true and false sides to the 9-dragon palace. The Great Palace with the Dragon of Origin is located in the center of the border between reality and the void, so there must be a gate to the void, which is as far away from the Great Palace of the Dragon of Drain as the entrance to it. The girl said it looked dangerous. Should they go in there? Ren calmed her down and suggested that they do it together. When they entered, they were surprised at the place they had entered.